problems it'll create there.
1:30. We'll call the executive session meeting to order. Agenda review meeting to order. Are we all right, Cindy? You on? On. The first item of business is item number 2. Review the proposal prepared by the Chief of Police and Sergeant Brian Madden for a town of McCandless K-9 unit.
Yeah, thank you, Council, citizens. Respectfully, I just want to give some information since the K-9 demonstration came forth. Next, and Bill's here tonight. Bill, I appreciate you being here. And I wanted to tell you that I received a lot of positive input about the program, as a lot of the officers did. Many people have been asking, volunteers, and knowing how to support the program. And not surprisingly, after doing some research with chiefs of police that I know from different agencies, communities seem to embrace getting involved with K-9 programs and other police programs. Many communities that I've found out solely fund their K-9 programs through private contributions made by good people who like to get involved in helping their community and simply doing other things. As you all know, we have many wonderful people in McCandless, and a lot of them have conveyed already how great it would be to have a K-9 on our force. My interest in this project, or any specialization, and being open-minded in the area of specialization for the department, should come as no surprise. I spoke about it during the national search and through the interview process. I'm a chief that believes in using our officers' talents to the maximum to better serve our community. I'd like to talk just a little bit about that and the talents of the dedication of this sergeant sitting right here, Brian Madden. If the program is approved, with the council's blessing, Sergeant Madden will be the selected handler. Sergeant Madden has shown dedication and enthusiasm over his career, and in his entrance interview talked about his aspirations of being a K-9 handler. He has proven himself. I've worked beside him, with him, both as a supervisor and as commander. He's an officer that goes the extra mile to see that the job is done correct. He is already has professional training in assisting in dog handling, and I believe that if we're so fortunate this happens, that he will be successful. He does have aspirations of trying to enroll in a training class in October. I've also spoken with Allegheny County District Attorney Stephen Zappala, who has agreed to commit some drug forfeiture money and believes, as we both discussed, in light of the opioid crisis that we're all facing, that this would be a tremendous asset to our community. And I think Officer Watt demonstrated that when he found the little bit of heroin and how profound it is that he said taking that off the street would save lives, and that's truly true. And I don't think any of us can put a price on that. I've been examining the budget. I think that there are some places where we can look to provide funding for the program, and I believe that the program will be a success. I thank Council for their attention and open-mindedness to agree this program. We hope that we get your thoughts on it as soon as possible. As I said, we would like to idealistically enroll Sergeant Madden in the program in October and have the dog on the street before the end of the year. That is a goal that we would like to have in mind. So at this particular time, Sergeant Madden, of course, is here. Myself and Officer Watts volunteered this time. He just wanted to be here, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
I'm not saying I'm for or against. All I'm saying is, are you aware that this is not written in our budget for this year?
I am aware. I guess I'm asking for the fact that I know I can get a commitment from Steve Zappala for about half of what the training will cost this year in the dog. And since it's so late in October, I do think, though, examining line items, and I watch my budget very carefully, and Regis has been a great help to me. If we look at it, I do think that if we look at it, there probably is the opportunity, because we have been frugal in areas, to be able to, without going over budget, maybe supplement this program this year.
And I did, just as another point, I did see on Access McCandless that they're writing something about having a program at North Park. I think that's kind of like putting the cart before the horse.
Well, I think people's enthusiasm they jumped the gun a little bit.
Okay.
And the decision is yours. I would respect council's decision, whatever it may be. But I just think it was people sincerely being enthusiastic when the program, when the demonstration came to fruition and they saw the demonstration. But from talking to other chiefs, that's not unusual. People have a love of dogs, and they, I think are excited about the program. But I think that's how it happened. I don't think there was any intention to jump the gun, but that may have happened.
Well, I don't want this to sound like I'm for or against,
No, I
I'm just
understand.
asking questions at this point.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to speak out personally, strongly in favor of this program. I'm just disappointed a little bit that it has taken this long to come to this level, because I've seen two back in the day of my previous life, especially how much and this was prior to the influx of the opium problem, how much of a PR tool the dogs are, how good they are at locating children, lost children, people, lost items, guarding groups of people, or preventing criminal acts from taking place, and in fact helping to subdue criminal actors. But now that we have this epidemic of heroin, other opioid abuse, and deaths and near deaths occurring, I think that that even heightens the need and for the dog, a police department to have a dog in service with a trained handler such as Sergeant Madden to help further the crime prevention activity. So between you and Reed, I know that they're through some creative budgeting could be able to get this program underway, and if you could get some solid numbers from Mr. Zappala, that would even be more helpful, so that Reed could know what numbers he's working with. But I'm certainly strongly behind this program, and I would like to see it be implemented as soon as possible.
Steve, I think, brought this up a little over a year ago
I
about
did,
having
and
a
Ralph
canine.
was against it then.
And what's changed your mind? You were adamantly against it last year. What's changed your mind?
Well, last year at that point in time, the opioid and heroin activity wasn't quite as much as it has spiked during this past year, and I see now that it's definitely much in need for this area. That's why I'd like to see it implemented.
This is about the third or fourth time we've had a proposal for a dog from different police chiefs. Gary Anderson came in with a proposal, twice, I think. I don't know whether you ever did.
I think Gary was against dogs.
Yes, Gary.
No, he wasn't.
When I talked to him about it, he was.
He sat here
Yeah,
and
well,
said
he
no dog.
come in with a proposal
Oh.
a couple times. We listened to the proposal.
No, that's when you add the package together, it just makes sense for the dog unit to be implemented.
We were kind of turned off because of the contractual expense.
Because there are ways that can be worked around the union contract regarding the operation of the K-9 unit, and we can still maintain command of that operation. Isn't that correct?
I absolutely believe so. We'll send out a memorandum, if council gives its blessing on this program, that there is going to be a K-9 unit, and the union could respond if they see fit.
Since the canine officer is normally partnered with his
canine unit for life. What happens if the officer gets hurt a year or two into the partnership?
Well, unfortunately, a dog can't be trained with anybody else.
Okay.
Is that accurate, Sergeant Adams? Bill, would you jump in?
Bill, would
on
you
that
answer
question?
that?
It would depend on the length of recovery. You know what I'm saying? If he got hurt.
Bill, could you come up to the
They're asking if you could
microphone?
use the mic
Oh, I'm
because,
sorry.
We're on,
you guys
county
can't be
camera.
heard on
Around
TV.
With this.
Always from the back of the room.
Right.
I would consider that, counsel, with, depending on how long the recovery period. Let's just say, God forbid, something was to happen to Sergeant Madden where he was disabled, where he could no longer work. The dog could be retrained to something else, very easily, especially depending on the age of the dog. If you're talking about now, it's well into the dog's career, 6, 7 years old, that he's gonna be looking at retirement, I wouldn't suggest it.
Well, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But initially, no. We've actually had dogs within the city. We at times have an influx, considering we have 22 dogs in the city. We do have influxes of handlers coming in, being promoted, even just walking out of canine. And we've actually had dogs that have had 3 different handlers, and they work just fine.
Okay.
What's the replacement cycle for the dog?
Replacement for the cycle?
Yeah, it's
the
like,
dog,
they have about an 8-year career, is that it, or more?
approximately 8, 9 years, yes.
How long did you say it takes to train a dog and handler together?
Together, it depends on where you go, sir. In the city, when we run our classes in the city, it's 3 months. But there's no pre-training involved. Shallow Creek Kennels, I believe,
6 weeks.
yes, it's a 6-week program. I teach classes up there. The dogs are pre-trained for 6 weeks. So the dogs basically have 98% of the training on them. The handler enters the scene, and for 6 weeks is taught to work with the dog, and the dog's final little bit of training is completed. So it's only a 6-week program as far as losing your officer, which is actually very, very efficient.
Of course, the other side of that is, I don't know, do you get any kind of commitment from, you got a commitment from the dog, how about the officer? Because they're a team.
We have
And that's-
never done anything like that in the city. Like I said, unfortunately, we have seen, you do get rollover every once in a while, not just in the city. Again, up at Shallow Creek Kennels, I've taught approximately maybe 3 or 4 classes, or at least assisted with those classes. And I've actually seen dogs that I had trained initially come in again with a new handler. But these are dogs from all over the country. I mean, it does happen. As far as speaking of asking for a commitment, I've never dealt with anything like that.
I've known that officer for some years. I think
Is your question that
if he
will I commit?
if he says he's gonna be committed to the dog, he will do that.
I mean, I don't know if you could just see by example right now. I mean, I understand some people are a little bit laypersons when it comes to dogs, but I mean, he's handling a certified police animal right now. I mean, just as well as anybody else would.
He even likes them.
You know, that's all.
It's always nice to like the people you work with, you know?
If you're asking if I will commit to the life of the animal, absolutely.
I think what I was meaning is if we put in all this training and time and expense into you and the animal,
Yes.
is that commitment, I have no doubt your commitment to the animal, but do you see yourself staying
Oh,
as an
absolutely.
officer in McCandless?
Absolutely.
For
I have,
that period of time?
absolutely. I will commit to continuing my career here for the life of the animal.
That's very impressive.
Absolutely. This is my lifelong dream to do this, and if it comes now, then I will be here until it's over.
I was taken, thank you.
Lots.
Any other questions from you?
We have, not so much for you, the chief has pointed out that there are, and we've heard from at least one of the new officers recently appointed, that there are aspirations for a succession plan as well. Because I think it helps to, Sergeant Madden's had a fine career, and he's got a 1-dog career commitment that he's just enunciated. And but there seems to be at least 1 or 2 other officers. I think, Chief, you might, I don't know if you want to confirm that because it's your department.
There are other officers that are interested in the future.
So I mean, so it's not like a one-time shot in the dark kind of thing here. So that's important to have continuity of a program, but I think you would have that.
So would we train those officers also?
They would have to be
They
trained.
would- At some point, they'd have to be trained, but there's succession planning in any organization. That's my point, is that if there's an opportunity to continue a program, that makes it a lot smoother operation. The amount of money that's in the chief's presentation that he gave council on about the training aspect is about 14,600. So those items would come under training. So looking at the town budget on its face, at this moment, Chief, the council would have to be willing to either fund or be prepared as a backup fund with you getting some help from other sources. It seems like so far that there is some momentum in the community, and there's the DA has offered some, you said about half the cost. So if half that, the $9,700 or so that we would be short in your training budget, because you spent about $4,900 in your training budget. Region, I asked Reese to check that. So we need about $9,700 to implement this for this year from the training budget, and then $5,000 to modify a vehicle, to put a cage in the vehicle. Now, there are some leftover funds because of the bid prices being lower than budgeted in the capital budget for vehicle modification that I think you could draw upon. It's my opinion. So it seems like it would be helpful if you want to target this for October, and council's willing to go into this without waiting into the next budget year. That full knowledge that council could be coming up authorizing about $9,700 over what was anticipated to be spent in this category, but you would have some opportunities, it seems, to negate that. I think that should be clear. It's not a guarantee right now, but it sounds very positive. You'd have other sources of funding.
And if you came back with some definite numbers from Zapella, I think that would help us.
I can have this tomorrow. What he did tell me is that he would probably cover half the fund. So that would be $7,000.
So
He
that
didn't want to give a
doesn't
number
leak too
until
much.
it was approved by council.
The other thing, Chief, that you and I, as you know, you and Regis and I met, Mr. Hoffman and Mr. Ladon referred to contractual arrangements. There's no real, there's a direct process for this, and that is the chief would issue a memo to the department after he shares that memo. Would be a policy memo from the department. The policy decision is by town council. Do you want to authorize a canine unit? After that, it's the responsibility of the chief to prepare a document to how to implement that and have a protocol set up for feeding, caring, and so forth, how the overtime works, and time off for the dog and his partner, or is it the partner and his dog? Something for the two of them.
How about the two?
Rare change.
But there's some things that would have to be put into it. It's a new program, so it'd have to have a maiden voyage aspect to it, to have a description about that. And then that is shared, because it's a management prerogative to implement a policy like that. The union has to be notified, but the union doesn't have to consent or not consent. It's just, it can be implemented. That's what we've been advised.
Would be a resolution from council now?
Nope, no, it would be, you could, I talked to Gavin, Rob about that in Bill's absence last week, and council could pass a motion and say that council would like, probably would be a good idea, because that also shows your willingness. There could be a little bit of insurance cost to it. Don't know exactly what that'd be. I don't think it's going to be a tremendous cost. There's a bit of a responsibility. The incidents is the officer last name?
What, sir?
Watts. And Bill?
Yes, sir.
Can I call you Bill?
Absolutely.
Bill talked about the low frequency, extremely low frequency of negative incidents with the dog. One mortality since 1952, and the dog wasn't the dog. It was, if I recall correctly from your presentation, One mortality,
One
one death?
mortality, yes, sir. I mean, it's
And that
actually-
person sort of asked for it, if I recall?
Absolutely, it's actually a set case law called Barnes versus Noble, and it establishes that police dogs are not lethal force. And if you look, just a quick run in on it, it was a burglary in progress at a I'm sorry, I'm not used to talking in front of it was a automotive dealership, burglary in progress, canine handler gets on scene, the door was forced open. As he brings his dog, we have to give 3 warnings. Anytime we use our dog in a controlled manner, you have to give 3 warnings. You have to give the person, anybody inside, the opportunity to peacefully give up. 2 warnings were given, the individual comes out, but then runs further back in. Another warning was given, the dog was sent in. And what the person actually tried to do is they tried to hide underneath a vehicle. And they were successful to 98% of their body except for their head. So that's what the dog got. So, but that was the only incident in the history of the United States of police working dogs.
Thanks, Bill. Mr. Chairman, I didn't have anything more that I can think of to add to the equation here.
Essentially, this is gonna cost between us, as town council, between $2,700 and $9,700,
That's the way it looks.
and most likely $2,700.
That's the way it looks. Plus the 5,000 for the
Cage.
the cage.
Modification
But
of
there
the
is
vehicle.
money, there's residual money in the budget, so the police department would not have to ask for
Right.
additional funding.
Right,
Just so you know.
additional is $2,700 with a chance of being $9,700.
Correct. This year,
I have a
that's
quick
right.
question for the chief. What are the mechanics of of supporting the dog at the officer's home? Is there anything unique, any challenges there that, I mean, obviously, the officer's going to, or the Nick, for example, would incur expenses, if you will, off duty. How are they going to handle that? Is there special funds established for the officer or the dog?
It'll be built into the budget eventually, but Sergeant Mann's already get some donations through food and some things of people that have already volunteered, so it's pretty much taken care of.
Yes, I've secured a donation of food for the program through Healthy Pet Products over in Pine Creek Center. I've also talked to my veterinarian that I use, Dr. Nikki Croson up on Prairie Highway, and she has agreed to give us a level of discount on routine veterinary care also.
Who names the dog?
They come that way, I believe, correct?
Yes, yeah, they get named over in Europe.
Okay.
If you ever want to hear a funny story about that, I'll explain how they get them.
Fritz.
Any other questions on this item?
What's council's pleasure, Mr. Chairman? What's council's pleasure,
I
so I
would
know
go
what to
for
do.
it.
Yeah, go for it.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Put a motion on the.
Very yes.
You can you can't say that now, you didn't say yes before. I'm teasing you, Ron.
Oh, thank you.
So we would put a motion that authorize the program to be initiated, and then, as already said, the chief will flesh it out.
I moved at it.
No, you don't need a motion,
Oh, we don't
next
need-
week,
we
next
can't-
week.
Next week.
Okay.
Next week you vote.
Okay, next week.
Not this week, we have to do it next week.
Okay.
Get anxious.
I respectfully thank you very much, very sincerely. I appreciate everybody's efforts. One thing I wanted to mention, Toby brought up a good point. We did save, I want to give a quick accolade. I know you have to move on, but we did save some money in the vehicle conversions. And I want to commend, and I told Mark Sabine that, and I want to do it publicly, the mechanics over the road department are stepping up and doing more things for us with the police cars, and that saved us some money. And they've done an excellent job. And I think, Toby, I conveyed that to you beforehand, but I wanted to convey that publicly. Ron and his crew over there, they're doing a good job. And, you know, teamwork is everybody, and they're sincerely appreciated.
Thanks, chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Moving on, item number 3.
Thank you, Officer Watson.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Item number 3 is Northfield's Council of Governments bid tabulation for pipeline. And that's an item in the packet. Are you gonna speak to that?
Sure. The Council of Governments has been bidding the pipe services COG-wide for some years now. I don't know exactly how many, but probably, it's certainly more than 5, less than 10. There's usually many advantages to joint purchasing, and the advantages here are pretty good. The information that I already gleaned is that these prices are less than last year's prices, even though it's still the same bidder. Last year, there was a competitive bidder, State Pipe, but State had to withdraw last year because they couldn't secure a subcontractor, because they actually were being kind of a general contractor and were looking for a sub, so they withdrew, leaving Insight. I asked the COG director a couple of questions that have popped up, and I popped in my mind, and that's why I put Insight as a low-end only bidder. There were 2 other inquiries about this contract, and they didn't bid. Wayne Roller, the COG director, was able to obtain information that another bidder may have been interested if there had been a more definite schedule given. Wayne and I talked about that a little bit, about how there's pros and cons, again, to having a large-scale bid, 19 communities, and the Insight has been willing to be an on-call respondent, and they'll, if someone, what Mark Sabina does, our share of this bid every year, we usually spend approximately $200,000 on pipelining, give or take over the years. It depends on whether, there are a lot of circumstances, bless you, a lot of circumstances we have to evaluate. But a total of 7 bidders picked up specs, and just only Insight was interested in bidding on this contract B, because you'll notice that it's referred to as B. There is an list of alphabet various types of contracts that other contractors in the area are interested in bidding, but no, they're not interested in this very interesting process. This is a great process, and it's worked well for us. We have, Mark has been able to, Sabina has been able to identify pipe early enough under this bid and this contract, and work out when Insight will come and do the work. It's not been a problem for us. And again, their prices range for the 3 most common sizes, as I put in my little memo: 15-inch, 18-inch, and 24-inch are the 3 most common sizes that we have in our system, that we line where there are difficult situations, and the prices range from 4.4 to 8 to 12% lower than last year's contract. They do good work. It's you'd like to see competition. There was competition on the other contracts, but not this one. They were the only bidder.
So on page 2, it says bids were slightly higher than 2016. Was that 2015-16 or 2016-17?
Bids are slightly higher than 2016. That is the overall bid. So this COG bid that I'm showing you here, this cured in place, is the $1.8, $1.9 million. So overall, the price of when you look at the page, the next page that has the light blue handwriting, I went through and looked at every one of those, and again, the ones at least that we would utilize, and they're like the $55 a foot. Last year that was 4.4% more.
So they went down on the cost, but then
The
up
ones
on the
that we
labor?
used went down, but
But-
no, the overall cost, the overall bid
Well, we're
price.
getting more done, is that correct?
It just,
No, their actual per foot bid price this year for those commonly used ones that we use are less.
what does this mean?
I don't know what that means. That's, I don't,
Says bids
somebody
are
from the COG
slightly-
said bids are slightly higher and, than 2016, but when I looked at last year's contract price,
Because the page before that says exactly what you just said, but this says higher, so that's why I was trying to figure it out, what that means.
yeah. I think somebody, I don't know who typed that on there, that came from the COG, but I looked at last year's contract, I took it out and compared item for item.
Well, the last one on the front page says they're lower.
So it's, it's,
Okay,
it's what it is.
so, everybody finished with that one? We'll move on to the business agenda meeting. Agenda. Councilwoman Zachary, you have the invocation,
Thank you.
the announcements. And see what they are. Number 5, business meeting of July, and reconvene business meeting. And we move to committee reports. Finance Committee,
If there are, excuse me, if there are any concerns about the minutes, should we bring that up here next week?
concerns about the minutes.
Yeah, if we have any questions or corrections in the minutes, would that be something we would do this week, or will we do that next week?
The draft of the regular business meeting, that's what you're talking about?
Yes.
Good to talk about it now.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, so then we would
And
have
it's
that
fixed for
tonight.
next week, right?
Well,
There's something that needs fixing.
something needs fixed. There's something missed.
Yes, well, let's see, what you think. My concern is with the format of our meeting minutes.
Format.
Our format. We are not complying with the outline that's in Robert's Rules of Order, which our charter says that has, told us that we need to be doing. The part I'm particularly concerned about is the body of the minutes, which according to Roberts is supposed to be a record of what was done at the meeting, not what was said. So, I know we've talked before about how our minutes are structured, and I know our solicitor has said that, a lot of towns just put, what was done at the meetings, the motions, who voted, those kinds of things. And I looked it up in Roberts, and that's actually how they're supposed to be done. Maybe now that we have all these recordings, we should see if we can bring our minutes into compliance with Roberts.
Oh, part of the reason why we have downsized our minutes a bit, but our minutes have been in response to comments about the lack of, the word transparency is used pretty often about, there has been our minutes have been pretty consistent over the years, but they are a bit more streamlined.
Is what we have creating a problem?
I think so, because
Why?
it's really hard to kind of paraphrase and summarize what people say. And, people have bias that they aren't aware of. Wouldn't imply anything intentional, but sometimes things are presented in a way that is open for interpretation. And I think, my guess is and I saw a little podcast about it, that's the reason Roberts has said that it shouldn't be so-and-so said this, or thought this, or expressed this, a summary of because maybe that's not what they were trying to express. So, our charter says this is how we're supposed to do it, so I just thought that maybe this would be a good time to do that. I can give you an example. On page of the minutes, page 7, where it says old, let me find it, where it says an old, ordinance. Yeah, I gotta find the minutes.
Page stuff.
There are a lot of minutes.
The Dennis Kassane.
Right, where it's at, where it's, and I have to dig mine up to find
That's
it.
page 3 if it's Dennis Cossane.
No,
Oh,
page
No,
7.
it's 7.
No, 7.
Yeah, and it's.
Middle of the page.
Right, and where it says an old ordinance, when I read that, I thought, well, does that old ordinance to me means outdated or no longer in effect? Where, and there's implications that it is, outdated or whatever, and as opposed to saying, an ordinance from 1978 or whenever it was.
I think that's a good idea, because that, when I did see that with Maria's preface, I was thinking of just putting in there 1961 ordinance rather than old.
Right, because old
That's
to
more
me,
subjective.
this is my point,
Although his comments were somewhat subjective, but that's, I think, he did mention 61 in his words.
Right, and I think that unless you're gonna type every single word that somebody says, that person could feel like things were being selectively pulled out from what they said. And Roberts is very clear, I have the page and the number, if I can read it to you, about, what is supposed to be in minutes. And,
Now, I'm sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt.
no, that's what I'm saying.
Roberts, as we've been advised several times, it is referred to in our charter, but the Sunshine Law and the Records Law, Gavin, Rob has advised on several occasions that each person who comments, it has to be listed in the minutes, it's so-and-so commented. And then that's where you get to, where do you don't want to do someone a disservice about what their comment was, so you do your best to say, we can streamline it down to the point where it says, Ms. Smith commented on the town paving program. You can go that, bear with it. But again, we have come a long way to be more instructive and more explanatory about what's going on without going overboard, so that I've tried, because I sign the minutes, it's my job to do that, so prepare them. So try to do it in a way that it's understandable, concise, and to the point, and not verbose, but enough information so someone doesn't, you're kind of alluding to Ms. Zachary, that I think somebody might feel slighted that if, well, I said a lot more than I talked about the paving program. I talked about why isn't my road paved this year? My road has been paved in 25 years. So you have to try to
Right.
try to hit the bullseye.
Right, and you don't have to do that if you go by how this is, how minutes are supposed to be done.
Will we not run into problems that people will ask why we're not being as forthcoming about information? You know?
We have our Facebook pages that we can refer them to if they would like additional information from that. We have recordings,
But,
that they
yeah,
can
can't
get.
they see the tape of it?
It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
If people
Can we
wanna-
timestamp these? Like John Harrison at 15 minutes into the
That
meeting?
would take a lot of extra work. I don't wanna have, get an assistant for John. And that would be too much, I think. He's already made that comment to me a couple times. He said, please don't ask me to do that unless you
So-
really wanna get more help.
If I can just, the Sunshine Act does require that our minutes set forth the names of all citizens who appeared officially and the subject of the testimony. It's under 706 of the Sunshine Act.
That's the bare bones version.
Mhm.
So again, we're in a bit of a transition. Years ago, we had minutes, and then they became seconds. I mean, just almost a transcript. And then it seemed too much. And then we've gone through this phase of the last few years of you've gotta pump out information. We really should do that. And so we're finding different ways of doing that. And so it's a council decision, really, to give me guidance as to how strictly we want to adhere to that. Because there's room for some latitude there, Kim.
What does sunshine law say? You have to give the name and what?
The subject of their testimony.
Uh,
And you don't have to
So-
give any detail?
Yeah,
what
basically,
they
again,
said?
Ms. Smith commented on the paving program.
Or
And you don't
citizen,
give
And that
any
meets
detail?
the-
You don't have to say what she commented about?
Yeah, the
Subject.
paving program, that's
Subject.
it.
No.
But nothing that she
Specific.
said.
Well, commented favorably about the paving.
That's according to
Well,
the,
favorably in whose eyes? So, you
Well-
know, see, that's the problem. See, you gotta watch adjectives and adverbs, particularly adverbs,
Yeah.
about how much,
So you simply say that so-and-so commented on the paving program,
or citizens,
or which street they're talking about.
Mhm.
just list them. Comments were taken by citizens concerning the paving program.
you have to name it.
Helen,
You have to name
so-and-so, Jody, so-and-so,
You have to
whatever the
name the
names
citizen.
are, that they made comments about those.
Well, I don't understand though, if this is not causing a problem, what we're doing now, why are we concerned about changing it? I mean, why do we need to do that?
First of all, we're not compliant with Robert's rules, which we're supposed to be. And some of the phrasing of what people said is incorrect. So.
You mean what she's typing is not correct?
The summaries are not what the speaker was trying to convey.
But it's-
So go and
she's got a
tit for tat.
tape. She's listening to the tape of what the speaker said.
Right, but some of the speakers feel like that what they were trying to say was,
Well, that doesn't
Have you
count.
had
What you're
people
trying
say
to
that
say
to you?
is what you
Yes.
say that
Yes.
You've had people
counts.
say that.
yes, I have, yes.
It's what you say that counts, not what you're trying to say.
There are
A
no,
difference in interpretation.
there are no
And
direct
so how can
quotes.
you interpret something
Right, each
different if
person
they,
interprets differently.
if somebody says something, they said it.
Well, then everything in here needs to be direct quotes.
You wanna put it in quotation marks?
No, that's-
I
we're
think
not-
that's
no,
gonna
no,
really get
You're
long.
You're
Yeah,
asking
no,
to
no.
prepare a transcript, we'd have to have a court recorder.
That's not what we
Yeah.
wanna
Yeah.
do.
That is
I
not the
don't think
intent.
that's what we want.
I mean, not with the tapes.
What's-
Right,
Not
we
with the
have the
films.
tapes. Mhm.
Is there some, well, the tapes are only here, the audio tapes are only here till the minutes are approved, and then they are erased and used over again. But we have a YouTube tape,
Yeah,
the
well,
whole,
yeah.
the whole thing's on video.
Oh, video, yeah, that's
Yeah,
what it is.
you get to see it living color.
Actually, the things I discussed make me look smarter than I actually was.
That's
See,
good.
well, you know,
That's good.
at the moment you're speaking about it,
That's
Yeah.
a plus in
you're
your favor.
expressing yourself,
Well,
the rest of us
yeah,
are
and-
listening to your every word,
Right.
so.
And the one thing I thought maybe Joanne said, I think on the second page, about the noise, about the, I think she said.
About the equipment.
Yeah, about the equipment. I thought you said that rather than me. I agreed. I said about the visibility, and I didn't, I thought maybe you said the noise, but maybe I said it, I don't know.
You'll have to look back at the tape.
Greg, I'm
Yeah.
not objecting.
Okay, well, I'm not objecting, but I just may not have said it.
Personally, I don't see any problem.
Well, these, making this change, was that gonna make them longer or shorter, do you perceive it?
Much shorter.
Didn't we go to some trouble here recently, and I'm not entirely sure which, for what we're putting on, to make summaries, you want to have summaries made of what people said at various meetings, isn't that right?
That's another feature that we have added, that we actually put a very basic minute-like, bare bones minute-like bulletized list of the key items that occurred the night before. Yes, we do that.
For what meetings?
Every committee meeting
Every committee meeting?
and every business meeting of council.
So-
Nope, I'm sorry, no, every committee meeting. Business meeting minutes are these are yours to approve. The other committee minutes are mine to approve.
But there's committee minutes, and then there's a summary put onto the web, is that right? Two different documents.
Every Tuesday.
Well, doesn't that present the same problem that's being identified here? That's kind of, there's
Well,
gotta
we
be
don't put everything, with every item, it's not a set of minutes. It's a bulletized list of items that seemed important last
Yes, sir.
night.
But do those, do we perceive that those minutes have to comply with Robert's Rules of Orders.
Those aren't minutes. I was
Okay.
gonna call them something and nobody liked the name I had for them, so we're just not gonna call them anything.
Okay? These are the only
Well,
quote
some
minutes that
people
we
like
have.
I think Steve liked it.
Steve.
Felder garb would fit.
Thanks,
Well,
Rob.
I would like to, I'm sensitive to the point that's been made, that if we have a charter that says, here's how you're supposed to do it, Robert's Rules of Order, and if we're not doing it, we ought to examine that, but
We ought to examine, I would defer to the town attorney on
But I'd like to have
how our
at
minutes
least,
compare
at least
to
a
what-
week to take a look at it, I have a couple copies of Robert's Rules of Order to really understand exactly what we would be. I don't object to changing it. I certainly would say we ought to be in compliance with Robert's Rules of Order, if that is what's required.
Unless it's superseded, and Gavin Robbins
Yeah.
told me a number of times, don't just rely on Robert's Rule of Order. So I'm not gonna be the parliamentarian expert here.
But they're superseded by that's a good point.
That's state law primarily.
Yeah.
Sunshine.
Well, let's give it a little further examination then and look at it, and if we have to.
Well, that's what we pay this,
Right.
we pay the solicitor to tell us what to put in there, or how to write. That's why we pay him.
Okay?
If he don't.
Okay.
Then if we are going to let these minutes stand to be approved as of next week, then on the first page, then on the first, maybe it's under Mr. Rosenberg's presentation, after council's, Mr. Rosenberg's presentation, I'm trying to see what page it's on. Page 5. He expressed concerns about misinformation regarding his work experience. This is the second to last. He expressed concerns about misgivings regarding his work experience, reputation, and conduct of his business.
I'm sorry, where are you reading? I'm sorry.
Right here, on page 5.
Page 5, second paragraph. Second paragraph?
Yeah, right here.
Oh. Go ahead, thank you.
Okay. That sentence, it is my desire that that sentence should end with the conduct of his business, period. And the rest of that left off.
Why?
Because I think it's inappropriate for it to be in there.
Is that not what happened?
It is, well, what happened was also inappropriate. So I think doing two things that are inappropriate is really inappropriate.
What happened, two things that are inappropriate by Mr. Rosenberg?
No, that, how that, all that transpired, I think was inappropriate.
Oh.
And then to have it perpetuated into the minutes, I think is also inappropriate.
What was inappropriate about the way it transpired?
I think that the purpose of Mr. Rosenberg's coming before council was to answer questions presented by council and staff. And I think it was allowed to deteriorate into personal attacks on individuals. And we have a policy that is very clear about how the conduct and how our meetings are to be addressed, that we adopted. And I feel like that that was not followed. I feel like Mr. Rosenberg was out of order, should have been called out of order for the comments that he made and the accusations that he
You
made.
don't feel that he was just responding to someone that
He
was
did,
sent to him?
it was inappropriate for him to personally attack an individual. He could have very easily said, I have heard, things were said, there are misunderstandings, and he could have addressed every issue without personally attacking an individual. And that's what I feel like what the problem
And
was.
you don't feel he was attacked?
This forum is not appropriate for that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, the forum is not appropriate for it. His job was to explain, to sort of alleviate people's fears, you know, about noise and everything, and not to come in there and defend himself.
Well, where are you suggesting it? Well, first of all, he said what he said. It was
Well,
up to him, and nobody tells him what to say. It was up to him to come up there and speak.
No, he was out of order and he should have been called out
Then
of order.
tell me exactly why he was out of order. I mean,
well, because he went off on
is it a feature that he mentioned an
tangent.
individual?
He has
Yeah,
freedom
he
of
mentioned
speech
an
too.
individual, and
According to our policy, there is, a person is ruled out of order by offensive, insulting, threatening, scandalous, comments,
I don't think he threatened anybody.
well,
insulting,
I don't think
threatening,
he insulted
scandalous.
anybody.
And Robert's rules says personal attacks, calling, making sarcastic remarks or otherwise insulting someone is out of order.
I don't think he insulted anybody. He's
But
laid
they're
out the fact.
referring to people, to the
He was
council
just saying
members.
No,
What
no,
happened?
it's not. It's
I don't
all
think he
members
was
of the
insulted.
assembly. It's all members
well,
of the
well, did
assembly.
it in fact happen? I mean, I don't even know that.
Did what happened?
Did what happen?
What he's saying happened.
That's,
Yes.
that's right. He could, and that was not appropriate for this venue. If he had issues with someone, he needed to deal with those issues somewhere else. This was not the place for him to do that.
Where else would you
Hey,
suggest?
that's not my problem. We are in charge of this situation, and it is not appropriate for us to allow one citizen to slam another. Maybe it was true, maybe it was not true, it doesn't matter. The point is, it was inappropriate to happen here.
Well, what is it you want to alter? You want to eliminate what?
Well, put a period of their business.
Basically the last half of the
Well, what if you took, what if
second to
you
last sentence.
eliminate the reference to Ms. Richards' name?
Including by individuals such as Bob Richards. I mean, I don't see why that is important in the minutes.
It's not important in the minutes, and that's the reason and there's been little things for a while that gets in there that's kind of like this, and to me, if you're just putting in the facts instead of transposing comments and cherry picking what you put in there, then you don't have to worry about that.
Who's cherry picking?
Well, Mr. Rosenberg talked for a really long time, and this is not everything he said. So there's only a summary here. So, it's
Yeah.
not the bulk of, what he talked about.
Right, because we don't want to have minutes that are too lengthy. We're trying to hit an optimal target.
Right, but that's what cherry picking is, when you pick what you think is optimal and you leave off the rest. Because maybe Mr. Rosenberg thinks the really important things weren't on here. We don't know, because we picked what we wanted to be on there. That's why seems like we either need all of it, or we need to just say, he spoke and he addressed concerns of council, and for more information, look at the video.
Well, if we do all of it, then we have to go back to a format that are very detailed minutes. And you were just saying we wanted to go to a, very shortened version.
It seems to me, to be fair, it would have to be
It
one way or
seems-
the other. And I think the, allowing people to, if they want further information, they can look on the website, but, this is not, I don't think this is acceptable.
I
You
think-
you have to approve the minutes.
I think
I did my
we
best
have to
to-
go with this just the way it is. It's done.
It's not, the minutes are not done, we're talking about approving the
We're
minutes right now.
talking about approving them, that's right.
Yeah.
So
And I
basically
personally
what you
don't
want
see
is
anything to
that
change
name, that person's name taken out.
I want, yeah, just a period after his business, and leave off the rest.
Including by individuals such as Bob Richards.
Well, I don't have a problem
What what class of individuals is it? What does that mean, by individuals such as Bob Richards? What class of individuals is it?
class of individuals.
Well, it says by individuals such as Barb Richards.
I think it's intended to summarize what has been expressed about his business. And I put the word individual, I use the word individuals, because that means it's a generic term for people.
Well, then leave individuals and take out the rest.
But while I personally think he should be able to say what he feels, if someone else has already come out and made a claim against him, I feel like he has the ability to do that and should have the ability to do that.
To defend himself, is what you're saying, right?
I feel he absolutely had that right to defend himself, and I wouldn't have, if it was someone who I agreed with or disagreed with, I don't think I should make a different rule for each person.
Well,
But I do see why there's no need to have it in the minutes as far as, he probably did speak 3 pages worth of writing and been narrowed down to a paragraph with one particular person pointed out directly. So I don't have a problem with deleting that last sentence and a half. But I do think that he should have certainly been allowed to defend himself and say, and respond to the accusations that had been leveled.
well, he should have said what they were and then factually responded to them. I don't know that he
I
did.
thought that's what he was
He
doing.
did. I would
Well,
have said he
well,
did.
I don't
He
think-
did do that, it's not reflected here, but he did do that, definitely did that.
He defended himself exactly. He said what happened.
And he's defending himself against the assertions made on public television, for heaven's sake, a public television station.
You saw him?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't see him. I'm just.
Plus, it was a person who attended who was not invited. And they got in on false pretense.
The question is, are the minutes a place for us to bring out finger pointing against any one individual or 2 or 5 or however many? I guess that's really where what we want to look at.
I don't think there's any finger pointing, I think he just explained what happened from his perspective. He's entitled to freedom of speech.
Right.
Just
He is
like-
entitled to freedom of speech, but if you take 3 pages of written speech and narrow it down to in minutes, I'm not saying what he said was necessarily wrong, and that he didn't have the right to say it. I'm just saying that when you take 3 pages of speech and narrow it down, bringing one person in particular into something may not be the best way of doing the minutes.
Well, I don't think it was narrowed down, because look at all these other people that are named here.
Right, but when he spoke, if you were to take a word for word of what he said when he spoke, it would probably take 3 full pages.
Is there a motion pending to adopt these minutes or to approve these minutes?
Next week,
Next week.
Yeah.
So what procedure do we need to do at this point?
Well,
Seems
we
to me
take
like
a
it'd be
vote
easiest just to
on-
remove it, but
We-
Approving the minutes. If we all approve it, it'd be 7-0.
Do we-
If someone disagrees,
Do we approve? them
then we
right
take
today? Excuse me,
a,
do we approve it at this meeting?
no.
no,
no, but we can
we
delete
take a
stuff.
vote.
We can
I
see
Yeah, we
make,
can-
I
we can
move
make
to approve the
You can make
minutes.
changes in the
Yeah,
minutes.
we're discussing, I think I said at the
That's-
meeting that's what he said, I don't see what's so offensive about it. And we shouldn't be here trying to defend individuals, and in a way, by changing these, you're doing the very thing that you're criticizing the speaker for, asserting his position. I just
I'm
think
not
it's,
criticizing the speaker though, I'm just,
We're just
John Smith
questioning
called
whether
out-
they should be in minutes.
I
You know-
think it's okay as it is, that's it. I hear what you're saying, and I'm not saying your comments are irrational or anything, but I just think in my judgment, they ought to stay like they are. And if we're going to make massive changes, or significant changes to the way we keep minutes, that's another story. Then we should do that in the future, based upon whatever we come up with on by reviewing the Robert's Rules of Order and whatever else.
Vis-a-vis
council
state law.
tells us, yeah.
Well, these were the two examples that I was giving you of reasons why I thought that going to a shorter version of just actions that occurred
I understand.
would be better. These were the two examples. You ask, why is there a
And
problem?
you said two examples, what's your second example?
Well, the second example was
The
the
same
old
law.
the old
Oh,
law.
rather.
Yeah, implied,
Let's
no
see,
longer
we're-
in effect, yeah.
But, Mr. McKim, if I may,
Yeah.
next week, I will move to approve the minutes of council's regular business meeting. And then the council president will ask for a question on the motion.
Right.
All those in favor say aye. If we don't get 7 ayes, all those say nay, someone says nay, anybody opposed, nay. If there's a nay, then there's a roll call vote. If it ends up in a count of 6-1, the motion passes. 5-2, the motion passes. 4-3, etc. If it goes that way, then that's how the minutes are approved. If there's any discussion about how the minutes are constructed or the content thereof, it should be discussed at a different meeting.
At this meeting.
This is the
This-
meeting.
yeah, this is a meeting.
He's talking
Well,
about generally, right?
I'm talking about,
In the
right, I'm talking
future,
about the
Well,
general
there's an op-
business
Isn't
meeting.
there an opportunity at the next meeting where the vote will occur for comment to be made on the motion and,
Well, anybody could comment on the
well, or
motion.
comment or objections?
Right.
And those can be dealt with at that point. If it doesn't, if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Right.
So I mean,
This isn't completely new. I mean, I had one where I discussed the Allegheny Trust, and I disagree with Mr. Hoffman's analysis of the transaction in that he thought it was a loan, and I said no way it was a loan.
What if we would have, say on December 19th, thrown out a name of a particular audience member who was saying that they felt that $6 was in their pocket was more important than the future of McCandless. We would have never thrown that name out.
I
I
think you
think,
said December, wait a second,
if the
he said a
speaker-
date inadvertently, I think December, you meant.
No.
Did you
No,
mean
that was
December?
the actual 19th, December
December
19th.
19th?
We had an audience member who said that $6
Oh,
was
okay, I
more
got
important
you,
to
I got
them.
That was recorded.
In the
I
future of
understand.
McCandless.
I understand.
since
And
that
we didn't
person's-
bring that person's name up and say, oh, look what this person said, or this person was talking
Well,
about
if
that
somebody
person.
made that comment specifically, it was recorded because.
Right, it was recorded, but we didn't
No,
add it
it
to
was
the
added, it was
minutes.
in the minutes, it was in the minutes. If someone spoke, each person that speaks, their name is
Right.
listed.
But it was boiled down to this person spoke and said they were in favor of the tax cut. My point is, we're targeting one particular person compared to ignoring another particular person.
We, who's the we that's
On
targeted?
the thing, if we're leaving this name in here, if we're saying that this person went after, we don't do it in other cases.
If it
Can
was
you go back to
specifically
that,
mentioned.
Toby,
Well,
and check those minutes?
If it was specifically mentioned by a person as part of their presentation, it seems like it should be included. That's why I put
But
it
the
there.
person's name should be included.
Well, there were 50 things that were
Wasn't his name
specifically
approved?
mentioned
Hmm?
in his presentation.
The rest of his information was pretty much summarized by the terms
Well,
of patients that he sees.
it doesn't appear to me that we're, I think we're at kind of an impasse here. I'm for leaving it like it is.
The
Mr.
chair,
Chair?
you're looking at me,
Okay.
I'm not the
Chair,
chair.
But you wouldn't be for it if we were doing the exact same thing that I just talked. If we were bringing up the person's name that I'm talking about from December, you would be against
Well,
it.
I don't remember the person, but if they.
Oh,
if they
I
said-
know you don't
if they-
remember what
if they
happened in
said-
December.
If they said, I mean, if something is said and the recorder of the minutes records it, I don't, and I can see where you may not like that for one reason or another, but I don't think that changes the fact that that's what was said.
Well, it doesn't change the fact that that's what it was said.
I mean, if somebody were saying that, gee, that's inaccurate, that's not
The
what-
question is, should our minutes point out that somebody spoke about a particular person?
I think if the person said it, doesn't matter whose name it is, it should be in there. doesn't matter.
Okay, well, Mr. Chairman,
That's why we require the speakers to come to the
Identify
microphone and
themselves.
identify
are you
themselves.
gonna, is there some ruling?
But this
We-
name
we
here
do
was
it.
not, they didn't
I'm
come to the
gonna say,
microphone and identify
leave the thing
themselves.
as it is, and bring it up at the meeting and vote for it, up or
Yeah,
down.
Well, we can vote for it now, but
No.
We can't
No,
vote
you can't
for it
vote.
now, we
Vote
could
for-
just
vote.
recommend we take this one
Recommend it
sentence,
for
sentence
change.
and a half out.
Okay, I think the chair has ruled that we're not gonna do that at this point, is that right?
That's right, we're gonna vote at the meeting, either up or down. Simple as that.
Okay.
It's next year.
And what about the format change then? Is that,
That we're
I
discussing
thought
that
that we
in the
had,
future.
I thought that we had,
The format change, I think we ought to refer it to the solicitor
Right.
and let the solicitor tell us if there can be a change in the minutes or not.
we're having an opportunity to.
Recording of the minutes.
Yeah.
Let him be part of the discussion.
And the issue is what should be included with respect to comments regarding the specificity that it goes into.
Well, what does Robert's rules require that's different from what we're currently doing? I think that, and if we're not
what's the
doing-
Robert rules with the Sunshine Act?
Yeah,
Modified by
or
the
whatever,
Sunshine.
whatever legal rules
Right.
Right.
would impact that.
That's exactly why we're referring it to the solicitor. You got the Sunshine Act.
And it may be that some
Right, yeah.
wholesale change is required, it'll be shorter, more succinct, that's fine.
Be easier to do the minutes.
Yeah, but let's see what the solicitor.
Yeah, it seems to me like we'd want to make them easier. And it would be a lot easier to say Mr. Rosenberg presented components of his academy and,
Well, maybe if these have been done under the new rules, if we adopt them, that's what we would do, but we didn't do these under the old rules, the new rules, if there are such things. But anyway, I think there's been a ruling on it. I suggest, Mr. Chairman, that we proceed with the next item.
Okay,
Finance Committee, tentative agenda for the Finance Committee.
I think that's where we are,
Right,
the Finance Committee.
so I will do the two reports, I don't have to read them now, do I?
Unless there's any questions or comments about the list.
Anyone have a question for the finance?
No, doesn't seem to be any, Jerry.
I don't hear any.
No,
Okay?
okay
If
then.
you have any questions, contact Reed. Number two,
Let's say the same, oh, good.
Joanne, you got number
No,
two.
no, any other questions there? Okay,
The zoning committee's next. Two items there that are, one goes over onto the next page. We discussed these before, I can read them, or we can just,
Unless somebody has comments,
no,
Bill, I
if there's
think.
any comments, like, let's just proceed.
I have comments about number two.
Well, the number, well, go ahead.
I think number one is a
Well, what is your
very
comment on number
simple-
two?
Simple matter. Bruce, Betty, and I went over the status of his work after the council meeting. He has met with Mr. Pagone and on site, and Mr. Pagone is pondering how he will attempt to answer item 3 as one of the conditions the council articulated. So what I did, I drafted these conditions, and I read them back last week, and I adjusted them a little bit here. The number 3 is no equipment, the weight of which shall not exceed blank tons, being visible above the perimeter fence. That was a way of using the perimeter fence to hide the equipment so that it's not visible from the road or visible from neighborhoods. Mr. Pagone is, Mr. Betty reports that Mr. Pagone is thinking about how to articulate that. And Bruce's recommendation is that if he doesn't have an answer, Bruce would provide one. And the answer would be 44 tons, because that was a piece of equipment that Ralph Pagone had talked about last week. That was a large piece, not the thin one that had the high.
May I
frame.
understand, would you
Yes, sir.
entertain a comment here?
Yes, sir.
I guess I'm not clear just on what is being addressed here. What is the correlation between exceeding a certain tonnage and visibility above the perimeter? What if it weighs, it could be very relatively light.
Well, that's right, but the best information we have so far is to do this by tonnage, which is the size of the equipment. All of the equipment folds relatively flat. He showed,
Except that one,
except the one smaller piece in body but higher.
But sir, isn't the concern whether it's visible above the perimeter fence, not how much it weighs?
There has to be some trigger. Last week, during your zoning committee meeting, it was discussed that the trigger would be tonnage. Pagone seemed like that would work for him. So that's what we're pursuing, because
Would you know how he feels if
Because-
visibility above the fence? I mean, isn't that,
Well, one of the machines is going to be there.
one of them is gonna be
visible
sticking up behind a
that's
fence.
what we told
okay?
him.
So you can't,
We can't,
You know.
I don't think it would be kind of peculiar to write a condition said, except for the one that sticks up.
Yeah, and my other concern is that whatever he says, I feel we need it in writing, because two times he spoke to us and he changed what he said the first time to the second time.
As to the, Mr. McKim, can I go to the item 1?
You wanna go back
The
to
first
item one?
condition, yeah, I
Go
wanted to
ahead.
point out number 3
Go
first,
ahead.
because I think, I talked with Bruce, and Bruce has a concern about a 10-foot fence looking like a stockade.
I agree.
So, council has the latitude in his zoning officer's interpretation of the ordinance, that council can set the height of the fence. And you may want to think about whether it's, and list that here, 10 feet, 8 feet, 6 feet.
Are you on number one, excuse me?
Condition number 1,
You're on number one, you're on number two, condition number one.
yes, yes, sir.
Okay, now I'm with you, okay.
Yes, sir, condition number 1 under item 2.
The installation of the fence.
I wrote solid fence, and,
You're looking for a word, an adjective before solid, like a
yeah,
7-foot solid fence.
well, they come in even
Yeah, they don't come
increments,
in-
they come
I
6, 8,
guess you could
10. I
make it
think 6 would be
7.
too short. When I asked
Right.
Bruce, I said, what are you telling me in your report here, Bruce? And he said, I think 10 is gonna look too high and too obvious. He said, I'm going to give council additional information, so my point is to you, so that when you see a change from this draft, till when we put out the agenda, final agenda here, based on some help from Bruce, it may say 8. That's gonna be, I think it appears that's the direction he's heading, it's an 8 foot.
8 foot all the way around,
Right, because council last week said you wanted to have the fence all the way around,
you know.
makes sense, but if it's 10, it just starts looking
Well,
like,
it was 10 some places and 6 other places.
that's true.
6 in the back and 10 in the
6 in the
front.
back, that's
so a
right.
maximum of,
Yeah, but
I don't
You can
see
do
a
that.
reason
Now, that
for
might-
8 in the
Now,
backside.
that might be a way to handle it too, would be a maximum of 10 feet. And in which, the way we've often done this is referred back to the concept plan, in accordance with the plan. So we can say a maximum of so many feet in accordance with the plan. So you're gonna have to see, when you're voting for this, I think you're gonna have to see the plan, so that you can see where the 6 is, where the 8 is, and where the 10 is.
Well, I can see the plan in my head,
Mhm.
and I can see the property in my head, which goes up also.
It goes up about 4 to 5 feet.
Right, and as long as the it won't be paving, but the lot itself is the determining factor of that, you know, the surface of the lot is where that 8 feet goes up. That would certainly be fine, I think, with the 8 feet.
I do believe that there could be some additional questions and points raised next week. I think you'd be braced for that. That happens sometimes. Every motion on a business meeting agenda doesn't always just go, you know, swallow down.
Is there going to be a number plugged in there for the tons exceeding X tons?
So far, that's the best we have, and Bruce says the number would be 44, because
Okay,
in
44.
order to pin Mr.
That's what I'm asking,
Yeah.
44 is the
That's,
tonnage?
tentatively, that's what we have. That's the
That
largest
is
piece of
the
equipment
largest
that he
piece they
showed us,
have.
and it's in their stable.
So we're saying that we could go up to that?
He has expressed concern about confining himself to the number of
Right,
tons.
and he wouldn't answer Greg when
And
he
he's
asked
also
him
expressed
last
concern about trying to establish a maximum number of vehicles stored there, or pieces of
Right, yeah.
equipment stored
Right,
there.
but if the biggest piece is 44 tons, do we wanna say up to 44 tons, or do we wanna say up to 42 tons?
Well,
Or
that,
maybe say 40 tons.
well, he wants to store that 44 ton
Well, that's not that
piece.
huge one he has in Cincinnati, is it?
It's,
No,
yes,
the
it
big
is.
one he said he
It
wanted
is?
to.
It is, but it folds down, so it's 8 feet high. As
I thought he
recall,
said
it's
he
8 feet.
wanted to store that one would be, that had its
Yeah.
own place to.
I
He
think,
said,
To live.
I'm recollecting that he went back and forth on that.
Yes.
No, he didn't, not on that big piece.
Yeah, the big piece,
the
he
big
kept
piece.
saying,
He
He-
kept
at
saying
first-
that
at
would
first
be,
it was gonna be stored in-
that was original, first meeting.
Cincinnati, it was gonna
That's
be.
what I
Second
said.
meeting, he said that the big one would not be here, would have its own.
That's what I was saying,
Place
Steve,
to
that
live.
he changed.
Right, but that was first to
Change.
second meeting.
Right,
So if that piece is 44 tons, and you're saying up to 44 tons, then he would be able to store the biggest piece here.
That's right, and you know, we're looking for a way.
Well, then we're just saying we can store all of his stuff here if that's the
We're
biggest piece.
looking, we're looking for a way to pin him down to some kind of commitment. And I think that's what you're looking for, that's what we're trying to do on council.
Right,
I
we
mean-
were
I mean,
concerned
originally-
about the big piece, which is 44 tons, so we can't say you cannot exceed 44 tons. If the biggest piece is 44 tons. Because then at that point, it's every piece you have. You have to reduce it by something, 43 and a half tons.
Mr. Chairman, is there?
Well, I don't care about
Right?
40, but I'm just saying,
This-
right, I
if
agree.
we have this one piece that we don't want in particular,
Right,
we can't say, well, up to this piece, or he could put it there.
right, I
Yeah,
agree.
we're just looking for a way to try to pin this down.
I mean, originally he said, according to the planning commission meeting, he had, there would maybe, this is Ralph Pagan speaking, there would maybe be 2 to 4 equipment pieces stored at one time.
Ralph Ladon speaking?
No.
No,
Ralph
Mr.
Pagone.
Pagone.
I could have sworn he just said Ladon.
Your thing, you got Ralph Pagone.
At one time on this site. And then I wanted to put a limit of 6, and he said, well, I might want to go to 7. And then I said, well,
Where's the max?
yeah,
That's my
that's why I asked
point.
him, and he thought the max was 10.
It grew from
Yes,
2 to
and
3 up
that's
to
the point.
10.
That's the point I'm making, it's saying we
Right.
have to have things in writing from him.
Well, Mr. Chairman, is there a
Looking at
possibility like
Over
we,
here.
Ralph.
He chairs the-
No, we're gonna-
We're just going over, he's
Yeah.
chairing this meeting.
Oh, yeah.
okay, well, my question is, can we table this vote until we get all these things cleared up? Because apparently, there's still a lot of questions left unanswered here.
Well, that's the
Well, we can
point.
just do a contingency.
Well, that's the point.
We
We-
vote yes
table?
on
I like table.
as long as,
I like
Table.
tabling.
We can
Right.
table it and,
Yep, I think you're
and
right.
let him come
Right.
back when he has
You-
all the answers.
You should look at what is written, what he offers.
You should read the planning commission meeting. And he's saying, Mr. Pagone presented pictures of an open road trucks, a 14-ton crawler crane, which is about 12 feet high. I thought that was the type of equipment we were talking about. 14 ton. And then now you're telling me he wants to bring this thing up from Cincinnati?
I think we need to have that confirmed. Yes, sir.
He said the bigger one.
Yeah, well, he didn't say at last meeting.
you know, when did he change it to the bigger one? Because as of the last meeting, he was saying he did not want that one
He
here.
said if he brought the bigger one, he had to store it.
No, that's not the bigger one, that's the
No,
small
That's
one.
the
No.
smaller one that
Smaller
has
one.
the
The
thing
bigger
that
one
sits
is-
up in here.
The
Horizontal.
largest one, the 44-ton one, flattens out.
Right.
So it's like no more than about 8 feet high, I think he said.
Any other question?
Well, I think we will attempt, working with him administratively, to come up with a list of contingencies. And then when the motion is made, and then I would suggest discussion. If you're not satisfied during the interaction with the applicant and what's gonna be recorded in writing, then it's up to you if you wanna table it, sir.
When you talk with them, bring up the stuff that's in the July 5th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting, because they have a good write-up.
So we can table it next week?
You can, if that's appropriate. I mean, see if he answers the questions. If he doesn't answer the questions, at some point, someone may say, look, this is going back and forth, you know, we don't have enough, we have more questions than answers, you have every right to table.
What about neighbors that do not want him
We
to
got this
express
letter.
Well, it's
concern?
interesting, it's not an editorial comment, it's a fact. The neighbor is Howard Ham, who's actually listing the property. That's kind of ironic.
Yeah.
That's an adjective, I realize, but
Well,
listing
They're selling the property.
well, they're
opposed
selling the
to it.
property,
They're
they're not the listing agent, because they have another company up there that's apparently listing.
I was told that they're selling it. They're handling the transaction,
I think
but
it's-
they don't like the idea of those items. Well, the items that he mentions there, that's Corbett, Terry Corbett mentions those items. Noise is being, you know, you've talked about noise, dust, you know, I don't know how much dust there's gonna be from this material. traffic is, the volume of traffic is gonna be minimal. Property
Right.
devaluation is gonna be in the eye of the assessor, so.
That's the point I made about the other businesses, and he said he talked to them and they all agreed with him. Well,
Yeah.
here you go.
Well,
Now
yeah, in fact, he specifically, I thought he specifically said this guy, these people, Howard Hanna, is it Howard Hanna? Yeah,
Right.
they agree with it.
Well, if you read what this says, it said they did agree, but what they agreed to is not now what he's saying, which is exactly what
Exactly.
we're saying.
What's happening
That's
here,
the
yeah.
point.
So I'm seeing a pattern of, he told them one thing, and now they're saying, wait, this isn't what we thought, when we agreed to this, this isn't what we thought it was gonna be in these middle sentences, and now
Well,
we're
he's
saying.
saying that, saying, they're saying, Howard Hanna is saying that this agreement was with McCandless Township when they asked us to provide a 24.
Well, that's an assertion he's making, I don't know where he's getting that. I mean, the ordinance clearly says, business is permitted here, this is a business, retail is permitted, this isn't retail, but it's not limited to that. It's clear that in the RC zone district, heavy equipment storage is permitted as a conditional use.
Right, yeah.
So I don't know why Corbett's making that assertion in his letter, but he is. That's something he said.
Isn't he talking about before, that predated this issue even coming up? I think.
Oh, yeah, he's talking about,
He was talking about
Yeah,
name
somewhere
building.
along the line, when Howard Hanna the Howard Hanna building went in, council wanted to have this 24-foot access easement so that the properties could interconnect and keep, if somebody wanted to go from the Howard Hanna building and then go get a battery at
Right.
AutoZone, they could not go back out on 19, keep the traffic on. It's nice to have, we've, all over the years have longed to have and have achieved in some cases interconnections of parking lots. Not everybody wants
I'll tell you, what would be nice is if they dug down 4 feet from the road level so that it was flat going in, and that berm that existed became the fence.
There you go.
And then it would cut down on dust, it would cut down on noise, it would cut down on visibility, the fence and everything.
And one of the targets that when council put the RC zone together was to have some grass area in front, a decent front buffer. The example of Westview Savings Bank was used time and again.
Are you gonna communicate with Ralph Pagone?
Bruce will stay in constant
Or Bruce?
communication. I'll talk to him if I have to, but I may.
Fill out the questions.
Bruce is
that we
doing
have.
fine. Yes, sir.
so, I mean, just point out the planning commission meeting
Yeah,
minutes. I mean,
that sounds good.
And I was at that meeting, that I agree with you, that it's a pretty good summary of what
Right.
was going on.
Of course, for my part, gets into site development,
Length's
and
lengthy.
I'm worried about the
Lengthy.
runoff from that site.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Pagone says there was gonna be an impervious surface underneath this stone fill that he's gonna have these tracked vehicles. Well, if he puts an impervious surface there, he's creating a swimming pool.
Yeah, it doesn't absorb water.
Yeah, it'll hold water and these
Yeah.
stones will float.
Yeah.
But the water's
What
gonna
kind
go.
of stones is he putting in a float?
Limestone.
Floating limestone?
You know, I
Well,
think
the
he's
water's
just saying
gonna
the
pile
water
up
will build
underneath it. And he said if he puts impervious, now, I'm sure he didn't mean that.
Permeable.
He said permeable. He
Yeah.
said that the water would get through there.
But it's supposed to be like an oil trap. It's
Right.
supposed
It has to be an oil trap.
And he will have, he'll have
And
to
we
have.
wanna know where the water's gonna go, and I suspect it's gonna have to go down into those PennDOT catch basins in the front.
Okay, well, does that conclude?
Okay? Is there anything else on that item?
What did we decide, to table this?
I don't think you can decide now.
I think
No.
so.
So,
Oh,
I think you
next
should
listen
week.
to him next
It-
week
it-
and then decide what we're
In-
planning.
in fairness, I think you
Okay.
see what he accomplishes this week. He may still have some
See if he
hills to
changes
climb
anything.
at least.
I think what was decided was that Toby or Bruce are gonna
Bruce- Bruce will.
Bruce will communicate with Mr. Pagone
Mhm.
About concerns.
about these concerns we've expressed, not repeating them all, and
Yep.
see what he can say.
Yep.
Okay?
We'll do our best to put it together for your agenda, and then you may change the conditions next week or table.
Are we now then on the Recreation Committee?
That's where we're ready to go.
Okay, hold on. Okay.
That's easy enough.
We're, move for the bid for the, tennis courts and for the coating for the tennis courts also. Questions, comments? It was the lowest responsible bidder.
Any comments?
For me,
I have no comments.
No comment.
No comment.
Okay.
This will also include the pre-striping of the courts and the pickleball.
I think it does.
We got candidate interviews for the sanitary authority. And then we have an executive session on collective bargaining.
And Bill Reese wants to add an item of potential litigation.
Okay, you have a legal report coming.
No, on the business meeting agenda, he wants to add,
11.
in addition to collective bargaining, add a report on potential litigation.
During the executive session.
Yes, ma'am.
Potential litigation.
Does that just require an addition to item number 9?
Yes, sir.
Some sentence, you don't have to have a separate number 10 or anything like that?
No,
No, it'll be just an item under there.
Okay, very
Yes,
good.
Okay. Moving right along. We're going back to the agenda items that we're discussing.
5A, right?
And oh, it disappeared. Five A, the liaisons, the planning commission, Bill,
The next meeting for the planning commission is, well, the planning commission meeting that took place on August 1st, it included the action that we've actually talked about them already. Those, the items that are set forth on the tentative agenda, the zoning committee items, those were 2 that were discussed. What's coming up next, prospectively, is the September 5th meeting, and there's a review of a request of Vincentian Collaborative Services to rezone property from R2, and I'm gonna read the whole thing, but it will be presented at an appropriate time. And seeking preliminary and final approval of a subdivision for a lot consolidation for Vincentian Collaborative Systems. But what will be involved is a question of whether that property should be rezoned from R2 to R6, elderly housing residential.
Is that the building
Yeah.
on Coomer at the top
What
of the
used to be
hill?
Regency.
Yeah, my understanding is they're gonna leave it vacant, and, I mean, they're not gonna build on it, and they're gonna leave that as a buffer. Do they really have to,
I'm sorry, they're putting a building up there, what do you mean as a buffer?
the 2 acres that you want, that are R2?
They have a picture of a building that they're gonna build.
Yeah, but that's not, that building is not gonna be on those 2 acres. I
Sure it
think,
is.
how do
Why
you-
wouldn't it be?
Because they're building it on an institutional, that's something that's owned institutional, aren't they?
Well, here's what it says on the more detailed planning commission agenda item. Review the request of Vincentian Collaborative Systems to rezone property from R2, then as a parentheses, 1 and 2 family residential, close parentheses, and R2, and I, institutional, changing it to R6, elderly housing residential, located, and then they give the address.
Oh, they're changing the R2 and the
Yeah.
I to the R.
Yeah,
Okay, I understand now.
okay? And that's the only thing that's on the agenda for September the 5th. Okay?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
zoning hearing board, Greg?
There was 3 cases before the zoning hearing board. 2 were dimensional variances and 1 was a use variance. The first one was the use variance was for Lockham Properties LLC, which owns the executive office building at 8150 Perry Highway, which is near Perry Highway and Perrymont. So it's right across from Azima. almost right across from Azima Pharmacy. It is, the building itself is in a RC district, which is residential commercial. The LLC acquired the executive office building in 2009. The office building needs additional parking spaces. It currently uses valet parking to get to all the people that need parking. The LLC bought in 2014 a lot with a house on it at 8124 Locust Street near the office building. Rin Road, an unopened public road, is used by the executive office. Office building separates the executive office building from the property we're talking about, 8124 Locust Street property. The lot at 8124 Locust has approximately 6,500 square feet, and and another lot purchased by the LLC in 2009 has approximately 17,000 square feet. The LLC wants to change their lots into a parking lot for the executive office building. However, 8124 and the lot behind it, the 17,000 square feet lot, are both zoned R2 residential, and they want to turn it into a commercial parking lot. The LLC needs a use variance as opposed to dimensional variance. The dimensional variance are usually requested when you want to build something closer to the lot, the front lot or back lot, than is allowed. And the use variance looks to change the character of the property. This appeal was continued until August 24th. In other words, this Thursday. That's when they'll the zoning hearing board will make their final decision. It's interesting that, well, I'll skip that part. 5 people spoke out against the proposal, and again, it's before the zoning hearing board on August 24th, 2017. The second appeal was Appeal 1871. This is a dimensional variance of 14 feet from a dimensional variance of 14 feet from the 35-foot required front yard you're required. But the neighbors all signed the petition saying it was okay with them, and it was granted. The third appeal was 1872. This was a dimensional variance of 8 feet from the backyard requirement of 40 feet, and no neighbors objected, and it was again granted. So the next meeting will be August 24th, as I said, and it has 3 cases, including the executive office case. August 24th is also the same date that the briefs are due in Commonwealth Court case, our Commonwealth Court case regarding the storing of vehicles on the former Rave cinema property. So it looks like it's pretty busy week.
Pretty busy, you'll have some fun then.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's all I have for
Thank you. Township Sanitary Authority. The authority seems to be doing real well, making good progress. The centrifuge seems to be working very well that they've installed, and doesn't seem to be anything different. So they seem to be doing well. Ambulance Authority, Bill?
There's a meeting, the next meeting is scheduled for September the 18th at the usual location. Nothing else to report on that item.
Northland Public Library?
The storm sewer has been completed. The library is very pleased with the work that McCandless did. The foundation is having a craft fair on September 23rd at Ross Community Center from 10 until 3. 2018, the library will have its 50th anniversary. They'll have many events. Library Foundation will donate $5,000 toward the events. The COG is working with the library trying to get bus service from for the library and CCAC. The library will be willing to be in the Community Day Parade, so we just have to notify them if we're interested in them doing that. And there are many retirees right at the present time at the library, no particular reason other than the fact that they're retiring. But they are definitely taking applications, so if anyone knows of anyone who might be interested, that's open.
Joanne, what was the first, you mentioned some event that's going to occur, and I didn't quite get that.
Foundation Craft Fair.
And then on the 23rd?
It's on September 23rd, and it's at Ross Community Center.
Let me make a note of that. September 23rd. Jeez.
From 10 until 3.
On Saturday,
Yes,
10 till 3.
yes.
Craft, what is it, a craft show, did you say?
Craft Fair, they're calling
Craft
it.
fair, where is it going to be, please?
Ross Community Center.
Ross Community Center, thank you.
Do you think the authority would like for us to post some of those things on our Facebook page?
I probably will put it on my Facebook page also. Okay, but you mean on the town?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Is that it, Joanne?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes, I'm finished.
Northfield's cog, Ralph?
The group met last month on July 20th. Some of the action items that were spoken to were, I understand from the director that Morton Salt Company has agreed to continue the current or past price of rock salt at $56.40 a ton. The additional discussions were, a lot of it concerned the Act 172. There's a lot of things that have happened since then, but at that point, a lot of municipalities were still pondering how to approach that regarding any benefit to qualified volunteer firefighters. Since then, there's been a lot of action taken by several municipalities, ours included, as far as the individual departments choosing whether or not to use the tax abatement or the gift card system of awarding giving our firefighters some recognition and some relief for all the work and volunteer hours that they do, along with the dangers that go along with their volunteer service. Toby, if you'll maybe correct me, but didn't all of our volunteer fire companies agree to go the tax abatement route, or the tax forgiveness route, rather than a gift card?
They did.
Okay, thank you. And there was also some discussion regarding, this is uncertain at this time, but future funding levels of the CDBG grant program may be cut considerably come July 1st of 18, which is the beginning of their fiscal year. So we may expect considerable reduction in the CDBG grant program. And other than an official from one of the towns not appreciating the fact that Waste Management's containers are golden green, the meeting was adjourned until September 21st at our next meeting. He doesn't like the idea of putting or advertising the Waste Management Company by the colors of their container. I told him make him paint the bottom black, then it'll be black and gold, just like Penn's Steelers and Pirates, or North Allegheny for that matter. So, but at any rate, that's the extent of my report, sir.
So, I have one question.
Sure.
I think it'll end up being one question. The COG has, on behalf of their members, agreed that the $300 tax credit should be the max.
No, no, they didn't agree to that.
The COG did.
Oh, the COG did.
The
The
next-
COG did.
Yeah, but
Wait a
the,
second, so I am, so,
okay, I'm sorry.
am I right then?
Yeah.
Okay, what did you think I said?
No, no, I thought you meant the firefighters.
No,
No, firefighters.
okay, that was my one question then, thank you.
Do we need to do resolutions then saying that, yes, we'll do that? How do we,
There's,
how do we make that happen
Yeah,
now?
there's a process under the law.
Okay.
And,
Well,
did you want me to address that now, or under this, under the COG report, or under mine?
The
I- I have-
volunteer
Okay.
firemen's come up under H, why don't we discuss it
okay,
under
okay,
there?
yeah.
That's fine.
Well,
That's
that,
fine.
well, that, they haven't met, but
Well,
I've got a report in my
Yeah,
manager's report.
it
Well-
should be under the firefighter.
That should come under, yeah, mine was under COG, so.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm
There's a
sorry.
little bit of overlap there, I guess.
Yeah.
Joint Recreation Board was over in July, so things are quieted down until next year. Volunteer Firefighter Steering Committee, Ralph.
There's been no call for a meeting, there has been no meeting and no call for one, except that there may be one called for soon regarding the Act 172 progress.
Well, that would be too late. I have to interject. It would be, by the time you'd set one of those up, I mean, it would be at least too late or almost too late. So we have to move on it now.
Okay.
Moving-
Well, they haven't requested a meeting of me, so, with me, so I don't suspect there will be any backlash until, you know, the town makes its move regarding any remuneration they have concerning their duties.
Now, that would be essentially establishing the aforementioned $300, if that would be the case, or something different. Is that
No,
right?
well,
Are we
Well-
taking that up right now, or did you want to?
No, I'm just asking him, is that the,
Well, isn't
I'm
that
asking the
on there
chairman
now?
if-
Well, we
if I
can
may.
take it up right now.
You thought he said a few moments
I'm prepared
ago.
to draw that information from my report then, okay. I took point because I'm the chairman of the tax collection committee. I took point at these COG managers meetings, point in the sense that
You let it,
I volunteered and nobody else was doing it.
right.
On July 19th, the COG solicitor drafted the ordinance that you see, it was given a task to draft the ordinance you see.
Was that Gavin?
Gavin and Chris Woltz,
Okay, Chris.
and Dan Conlon from Tucker, I understand had a large part in it. So that ordinance was drafted and made it to the COG managers meeting the first Friday in August, and then that was on the 4th, and the 7th, I gave council what we had to that point. Now, the draft ordinance was constructed largely around the township supervisors, PSATC, Supervisors Association, and PSAB, the Boroughs Association models, with input certainly and legal work by Tucker Aaronsburg. Now, Tucker represents the COG through Gavin Robb, and Bill Reese and company represent obviously here. So I have immediately put Keystone on notice as chairman of the TCC on August the 7th, asking them to please review the ordinance and any impacts they saw in it. I didn't hear from them the week of the 7th, and I didn't hear from them the week of the 14th. And I left messages and sent emails to them, and I did hear from them today. And better late than never. We had a good discussion, but Keystone pointed out that their operation, they believe, hinges off of what the act prescribes, and that is to have the information promulgated for tax notices in ample time for them to get their notices out in the first week of January. So it's sort of two functions that the state has proclaimed. One, Act 32, saying these tax collection committees are going to have to follow certain rules, and then, and earned it, there's income tax notices that have to be sent out. And now we have this new law, this optional law, and how to make the two of them coincide. So I talked with Joe Lazaro, one of the partners and owners of Keystone, and their legal counsel for a while, and I asked if he would stay on the line while I got Gavin Robb on the line, who is heading up, as COG solicitor, heading up at least the drafting of these model ordinances that I've shared with council and with the fire companies. There appears to have to be some modifications made, and at this time, Chris, I think, I don't know if Gavin had a chance to talk to you prior to this meeting, if you have any update from like about 4:30 today?
I did speak with Gavin after he got off the phone with you and the Keystone folks. And my understanding now is that since their releases go out in early January, they would need the submission list 45 days before that. So we would need to shift the process forward.
Right.
Or generalize the language to use the generic 45 days.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes, it's more of a November deadline, not a January deadline.
Yeah, the early days of this law coming out on the table after the governor signed it was that the November 15th would be the cutoff for the list of eligible firefighters to be certified to us, and then action by the municipality in some form. And it does say governing body in the law. Kim, you talked about does the council have to okay the list every year? And that's what's being recommended, that at least the list be presented to you, almost like a checklisting in a sense, with the names, the eligibles, and because that's the interpretation that both our lawyers, COG lawyer, and Keystone is taking, that the governing body does have to take a routine act to say, okay, wait a minute, are you sure about this guy? Obviously, you're probably not going to have a lot of detailed information about who's who, but the law does say that the governing body is supposed to take action. So at least has to be a motion passed, Chris, would you say, on an annual
That's our
basis?
position.
Okay, so what has to happen right now, the ordinance is going to, draft ordinance is going to have to be modified. And there were two choices that Gavin was going to, you probably didn't have enough time to research unless you did, from November 1st to run the year of eligibility from November 1st through October 31st, or, as I understand from Keystone, a number of communities out east are using a 10-month cycle, January 1st through October 31st. Then that gives time every year for the fire chief to certify the list, get the list to the municipality so the administration can look at it, and then the town council vote on it in December. And Keystone will be quite happy to have a certified list sometime between the middle of December and the end of December, certainly by the end of December, and they will immediately incorporate that into their computer programs. They made it quite clear to us today, Gavin and me on the phone, that they, second week in January is when the barrage starts in their office. They get tax return after tax return. As soon as W-2s hit the street, a lot of people have the button ready to go on TurboTax, put that information in and send their return in and send it into Keystone and do all to try to get their tax return by the end of January or into February. So Keystone is geared up for that. They are not geared up to have the delay of having the list certified in January like was proposed in the original draft ordinance. So, suggestion I made to the partner from Keystone and to Gavin and now to town council is that this first year is going to be a short year. It's going to be a short period, whatever the amount is, and that's for you to decide, certainly. But it'll be a 9-month period, February 1st through October 31st, which is 9 months. Eliminating January, eliminating November and December, because we need the November and December again to certify the list. And it'll be a little bumpy road here for the fire companies to get. They have good records, or at least pretty good records, but they're all going to have to get used to filling out this new form. Therefore, Gavin and I talked about, at least from our perspective, that we should reduce the amount of hours this year, the commitment from 50 to 37 and a half, which is equivalent to 9 months of service that they're gonna be getting their credit for this year. And then Tucker can advise as soon as possible, contact Keystone on behalf of the COG. I've talked to Wayne Roller from the COG, and he said that's fine, and Gavin, just keep him up to speed, that whether we're gonna go with a 10-month cycle every year or a 12-month cycle from November 1st through October 31st. So that's the procedural part that's left outstanding. Everybody seems to be okay with the 50 hours of service. No one from the COG has raised any kind of objection to the 50 hours to be a problem.
So they would have to get the 50 hours in the 10-month as opposed to 12?
That would be your decision as to whether they do that in 10 months. Another, one of the arguments I brought up on the phone was, all well and good, but what if somebody said, well, you know, what about, can I get my months, can I get some more time so I can hit my 50 hours in November and December? Logical question. Gavin is double checking to see if the tax year has to be the same as the credit year. Because if it doesn't have to be the same, the logical thing to do would be to have the tax credit year run from November 1st of one year to October 31st of the following year. That'd be a 12-month cycle, everything could stay the same. Now, that being said, I'll run through this very quickly. Kim, what we have to do is we have to advertise a public hearing. The state law requires a 30-day notice on this hearing. And so I have asked Marie to put the tax credit, have that ready to go in the newspaper. If council, for some reason, well, it's obvious that every firefighter voted for the credit. Not one person voted for the Kirk, so that, I think that's over. So Marie can run the ad. There's 2 ads we'll run. The ad to satisfy the state requirement that says that we are assembling an ordinance, and then we'll get to the town's own notice requirements. We'll meet a minimum of the 6-day notice on the actual words in the ordinance. I think we'll meet that by far. I would rather we get that ordinance out on the street by September 15th, Chris. So that way we have at least, I think that's 10 days. That's at least 10 calendar days to have that notice out in the street. Although the people that are gonna care the most are the fire companies, and they pretty much have spoken. So then what happens after that is that the ordinance would have council, I would suggest council would adopt the ordinance at a reconvened meeting, which would be in October, and then whatever your actions are in that ordinance and the accompanying resolution as to how the credits work, tax credit works, then that goes to the fire companies, then they have time to get their lists together and we can meet the requirement for this year. That leaves one other thing. And then, 2 fire companies readily accepted and thanked us for the $300 maximum credit on the earned income tax. Highland is asking that the credit be an earned income tax credit to the full amount of the municipal portion of the earned income tax credit owed. They are asking for that rebate to be or credit to be the entire amount. And they're also asking the council enact the 20% real estate tax credit that is available under the act. So 1/3 of our fire service roughly is asking for that, and the other 2/3 was satisfied with the 300. So that's the end of my report.
What result is, say, if we up it to $500 credit on earned income? How many people are over, say, $100,000?
We don't have the tax records here anymore,
Okay.
but just sort of trying to guess, have a reasonable guess, which is not risky. I don't think in this case. There's not too many
Earnings
firefighters
up to
that make more than
$100,000.
You have to make $100,000
Right.
a year.
To get the
I don't think that would
500,
affect
to
that
get
many
the
people.
500.
Pardon?
I don't think that would affect that
Yeah,
many people.
I mean, and there's plenty under the 3 that won't get it.
We won't hit the max.
Yeah, it's not a refundable credit. If you make under, say, 60,000, you're not gonna get $300 credit on
It's
your.
an up to credit.
I know that.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying for, just to repeat it.
One other piece of information, if I may, the COG, there is one other municipality that it is going with they're gonna go with a gift card system that's Franklin Park. And Marshall Township already has a gift card system based on points that are awarded throughout the year. And they seem to be avoiding this whole thing, just keep their
Right.
current system in place. So there's that leaves 17 other communities in the COG. The only one I've heard anything about, of course, is ours. We've talked a lot about now, what does council want to do with this? You are not married to the COG $300 number. The idea was that was for that to be uniform. I asked Joe Lazaro from Keystone today, just point blank, what happens if municipalities break ranks from the $300 target? And he said, we are going to code each municipality's credit by their PSD code. So when the taxpayer says, my PSD code is 7101, I think it is reached, McCandless' code, then automatically they'll have loaded in their computer system what our credit is, whether it's 300, 500, maximum, whatever. In the real estate credit reach, I don't know if you want to speak to it, or if you're still thinking about, what would we have to do to certify a list of, the chief's gonna have to give us a list of property owners for the real estate tax credit if council decides to enact that as well. And they'll have to provide us with a list, and so that we'll have to issue that
Right,
credit.
we need to see proof that they actually reside as a residence as well, and it's not a rental property.
What about if they're married and it's entirety's property, are they considered to own 100% of the house?
That might be a reason, questions like that might be a reason to, since the COG has directed themselves to the earned income tax credit, to explore that at a later date.
Okay, well,
I don't know, because there's other
I'm
questions.
not in favor of the real estate credit, but I'd like to see the income tax credit go up at least to 500 and
There's one.
Yeah.
There's one?
they want
I agree with you, Greg.
unlimited because
I agree
it
with
looks
you.
good and doesn't really cost
Right.
anything extra.
And we don't have to do both, right?
No,
Right, we don't have to
it's
do both.
either or both.
Both.
You have three
Wasn't there
choices.
some body that rejected the real estate, who was that? Did COG act on
The COG managers
Rejected
talked
that.
and rejected it,
Okay.
and gave that to the board, I presume, Ralph, and the executive board said, let's stay away from the, very few municipalities, I understand, it's being reported to me, are using the real estate credit.
Well, and if you use the other thing that's been mentioned before, but I think you said Marshall was going to adopt the gift card.
They have it already.
They've already done that, and that of course subjects those individuals who are taking the gift card to some modicum of additional taxes.
Correct.
So I guess they must have done that with their eyes wide open.
To me, you're defeating the
Yeah,
purpose then.
Yeah, I agree. It seems inconsistent, but
I mean, why don't we
I
go with
don't object to it. I don't.
unlimited 100% income,
Oh,
earned
you mean
income?
just for everything?
Yeah.
I was going to agree with you that 500. Now you just ended it up.
Well, I thought, since you were shaking your head, I thought.
Well, you got me a
He's
weak
giving
moment.
it a try, he's giving it a try.
Yeah, I don't think it will cost us that much.
Probably not, but what do you say? The COG has already adopted 300. Now we're not ruled by the COG,
Right.
Didn't they?
Well,
That's right.
well, the fireman's point, that we attended a meeting, and the fireman's point was McCandless is not an ordinary community. You know, our schools are ranked 15th in the nation by this group, and number 2 in sports in Pennsylvania, and we're just, you know, maybe.
Two of the companies were okay with the 300.
Well, that's because, you know, they just acquiesced.
Well, that's all. That's what it takes. They acquiesced. They agreed.
Gee, great, they both.
Voted for it.
Yeah, to that regard, I think we'd like to stick at the 300. I think.
No.
I don't
Not
know.
Don't
three-
stick
not
with
300,
the 300, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Wait a
No.
second.
The way I look
No,
at
I
it.
don't think 300.
there's-
Oh,
how
you're saying
many are
that's
above-
your
How
view,
many are
right?
gonna
Correct,
collect?
that's
Oh, how many
Right.
are above, yeah, how many are above 60,000? And how many are above 100,000 for that?
Less than or above 60.
Yeah, well, I agree with that.
We don't have that information.
Well, we don't have-
Are others for the
All right.
increasing of the 500 does not require us to really give very much.
Right.
That's the point, but
Yeah.
it's still.
But who's for 500?
It still seems
Oh,
like we're
I'm
trying to
for- I'm
cooperate.
You are, she
500,
is.
she is, yeah.
Who else is?
I'm good
You're
with
for
it.
500 too.
What'd you say, Steve?
I'm fine with it.
For
Well, that-
500?
It's not gonna get there anyway, so.
What do you mean it's not gonna get there?
It won't reach that level.
For most people.
Well,
Well, for most
unless
people, for
unless
most people,
are
you're
making
right,
100,000.
you're right.
People with more
For
income.
most firemen.
Yeah, but the more-
That's
Firemen are
fine.
the one getting benefit.
well, there are firemen that will be
Well-
well into that range.
What's your feeling, Jim?
I'm still deciding,
Oh, okay.
actually.
Jerry?
I'm not voting.
Oh, that's right. you
He
can't.
has to,
I've
He's
got
He
a,
has to
He's a
recuse
fireman.
well,
himself.
what's
I've
my
got
math
a-
here? We got 4 people, we got a
Jerry's
majority.
Conflict of
Jerry's
interest.
what's known as an active firefighter.
Oh, are you?
Okay, so
well,
Steve's
I've been
for
in
it,
there for
right?
61
I'm for it.
years.
Yeah, okay.
For what'd you
Is
say?
that long enough?
Well, are you,
Well, they-
you're not following an earning
You
income
got a
tax
majority
return.
right there.
I don't
1, 2,
follow.
3,
Yeah.
4.
Well, but you still
No,
have your
I
opinion.
follow. Income tax returns, yeah.
But not an earned income
I'm
tax.
still
No,
thinking,
yours-
I was persuaded by the
yes,
fact
what
that
I
car
earned
gas-
here.
Here's
Oh,
2,400
yeah,
here,
car
so
gas,
he's.
What I earn here
Well,
is my earned
It's
income.
a
even-
small
even-
influence.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it matters, but it
It's
kind of.
no
Nevertheless.
influence.
So
No
I,
influence.
I feel like
Maybe
we're
look like
losing-
you're
we're
to make
losing
it
track of
clean,
what
to
we-
make it clean, Greg, I'm
Okay.
gonna
Odd to me.
One meeting, please.
The description of it was odd to me, well, this isn't gonna cost us anything anyhow, so we might as well dip it.
Well, I'm okay with it going to the 500 level.
Majority is saying for us to draft the ordinance at 500, Chris.
And that includes all 3.
No real
All
estate, yeah.
3 fire departments.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
They may not like it. I can tell Highland's not
Wait a
gonna
minute,
like
wait
it.
a minute.
Highland-
We don't like the guy from this fire department. We're gonna cut them
Okay.
out.
Do we feel worried about that precedence of, we wanted to show our appreciation with this much and then to ask for more? Is that a precedence we feel concerned about?
I am.
That's my only
I
hesitation
think
here.
it's a chipper.
I don't know what that means.
I said
That's
the
okay,
same
neither
thing.
did I.
What does that
Said the
mean?
It's a
same thing.
negotiation term.
Well, and that's my
Do
concern
you know
about
what,
this.
now you know what I mean?
Well, I'm
You,
okay
if you're,
with-
Yeah.
if you're negotiating a
guys got-
contract
yeah.
for insurance, for instance,
Yeah,
you go in and you say, well, the insurance is costing,
right. I
say
understand,
$500 a month, you say to the company, well, you pay 200,
I understand negotiation.
okay?
But it just seems a little, that we said, look, we'd like to do this nice thing for you for 300, and then, to say, we want 1,000.
Okay, well, we had, what motivated me to go to 500, and I'm having second thoughts about that, is that 1, 2, 3, 4 were already at 500.
Right.
But,
So they all jump off a bridge?
yeah, well, that's not quite the same thing, Kim. I get, it's jumping off a bridge, but I thought that the
You're getting tired.
COG,
It's just a little
the
bit
COG group agreed to 300. 2 of the fire companies themselves accepted 300. Upon further consideration, until we have a final vote, I'm gonna go with 300. That's my final vote. Or for
Greg
my
and
fi-
Greg and I
vote tonight.
discussed it after the
You have
meeting.
about 6 weeks before you have to vote.
I understand that.
And the reason that we decided
But
that
I think we
we
look
should
a little
go
crazy.
higher is that it was such a nominal amount that it was almost like,
What is the amount?
what'd we say?
300.
Or the real estate?
The 300, yeah. How much would they
$60,000.
$60,000.
They have to reach 60,000.
So, but how much how much difference in
Right,
income
what did
does
we
that
say?
make for the town?
What did we say,
Well-
Greg? No, that they would get, the benefit they would get.
How much would we lose in tax?
$50 or something?
90 times 500, 4,500 or something.
Are you asking how much money is this gonna cost potentially?
No,
1,000.
how much would they,
Yeah, that's what I'm
the
asking.
firemen gain? What would be lowered on their taxes? How much would they? would their
Depends on how
taxes be
much
lowered?
they
Well,
make.
it depends on how much they make. I mean, obviously, a guy makes 50,000, he's not going to get the full $300
Correct,
credit.
Correct, but even if he made the 60,000 is what I'm
He'll
asking.
get a $300
He'll
credit.
get
He'll get
$300.
$300 credit.
Oh,
60,000.
okay.
Yeah, but someone makes 100,000, they'll get
They'll get a $300
$500
$500.
credit.
It's 300 if you leave it at 300.
And there are some firemen, I'm sure, that make,
Well, you're not
That
dealing with a
money.
fireman.
Hmm?
I'm responding to Bill's
What did you,
question.
what did you think I said that you're responding to? I please.
Well, you said you leave it at 300, and I'm saying.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Okay.
subject to change 6 weeks from now, or whatever.
Chris, the winds are shifting here.
No, I
I think the majority is still at 500, so I'll use
Yeah.
that as the placeholder.
I think we at least need a placeholder for the
We use
advertising, for the
500
preparation of the
for the
ordinance, right?
Yeah,
now, and what you're doing is effectively turning down the $300 that the two fire companies agreed to. That, I mean, that, to me, that seems.
well, I don't think they'll have any problem with the
No,
green 500.
we didn't agree with you taking the 300, we want you to take 500.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
okay.
And my thoughts are, well, next year's another year. We're gonna be 600 next year.
Yes,
Well, probably. Maybe we'll have more time to look at what the actual numbers are.
Yeah, that's true. We don't know there.
you just spilled it on something.
Thank you.
It'll be south of
You almost
27,000.
Thank you.
Yeah,
What's that?
Yeah, I
For
think
sure.
you're right, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you did. It's on those papers.
It's just a s-
He
it's
They're
just
my
a small,
papers, thank you.
Ralph, I'm not being critical, I'm just,
No, of
I
course,
thought perhaps you
It's
didn't
a
notice
small,
that.
thank you.
I missed that.
And that's why I'm thanking.
You were very
small
welcome.
huddle.
What happened?
Nothing of any consequence.
What's next?
All right, we'll wait the
All
papers.
right. So we're done with that?
We done with that issue?
Okay?
We're on to you.
Industrial Development Authority, Bill?
There's a meeting scheduled for this coming Thursday, I'm just getting the date here. August 30th, Wednesday at 4:30. It's the first meeting we've had for a while, to consider some proposals that they'll announce at the meeting. That's it, there'll be action taken, and we'll apparently be in the mix on another deal.
Is that it?
Yes, sir.
The Heritage Center, in your packet, you have a draft resolution that will establish a financial development and promotional committee. This was put together by the committee, the three appointed members of Kim and Joanne and I. And we need to look over that and decide if that satisfies everybody. It says what you want it to say.
There were a couple of things that we had decided to put in that didn't quite make the new copy. Whereas town council wishes to support the mission statement, I think we said and core documents were supposed to go in there.
Support what?
And core documents, the second whereas on the first page.
Okay,
And tell me if I misunderstood.
you are absolutely right now.
Yeah.
Just a housekeeping measure, I think we were gonna put number 19, there's no 19 on that page.
18.
Well, it was 19 on the other one, but 18, up with 6.
That is correct.
I also think that we were gonna put in, number 3, about appointees as per the appointment policy.
We did talk about that. Isn't it sort of is it a given that we follow that, or should we just, we did talk about kind of belts and suspenders, huh?
Yeah, just write it in there. Then there's no question.
What's the change?
Wait, say that again, Kim?
We had talked about that we would use the appointment policy to select these people. And we had said that we were gonna put it in under, number 2, but the numbers changed. Yeah, I think we had said we were gonna put it, no, under 3, we decided.
We have that in 3.
Well, that's-
It doesn't say that there.
Well, 3 says, it tells everybody what they're supposed to do with themselves.
Okay.
And that
Or
they have
it-
to complete an orientation. Probably needs
And
to.
2,
fit
it
under
does,
2.
all right, I am, yeah, I'm right, it is 2, okay, 2.
Appointed by town council under its appointment policy. Sound good?
Does that already sort of say that? Like, for example, it says one member shall be selected from each ward of the town. the policy speaks to this, I know, but is this saying, is that duplicate, that's all I'm asking.
That's what I was saying, it's sort of belt and suspenders, but, you know, we did talk about that, about inserting that.
I also think it would be a good idea, we had discussed about the income that was generated for the museum, that 50% of it would be put in an account for maintenance of it, new roof eventually and all that kind of stuff, and that 50% of it would be used for ongoing expenses. I thought we were gonna maybe, that would be in here somewhere, just so we know how the money's supposed to go.
Yeah, when we talked about it, 50% capital, 50% operational.
Right,
fund.
right.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll fit that, I think we should fit that in there.
And I kinda like where it said the town manager would give us assistance if we needed it. Administrative assistance
All the
if we
time,
needed it.
all the
It was
time.
out, it was taken out, why did you take that out?
Wait, I thought it was still in there.
No, it's out.
Oh. How did that disappear?
I'm watching you,
Accidentally on purpose.
yeah.
What number was that in?
That was supposed to, it was number 18 on the old draft, and, on the new draft, 18 was number 19. It just looks like it was just left off.
Well, number 6, the town may provide assistance from town administrators to staff. Doesn't that kind of,
It kinda does. I just didn't know if you had them in there twice before, if there was some reason, and I
Yeah,
just didn't want it to be an oversight that it was not in there now.
Yeah, basically, number 6 does say that.
And that's fine if you wanna leave it, I just didn't want to make sure you didn't inadvertently miss it. That's the only things I found.
Just to make sure you're not getting away with anything.
Yeah.
right. That sounds good.
That's all I had.
Somewhere, I'm still looking for an appropriate place. I don't have to do it right now, but there should be, probably after number 11, insert the language about that the funds raised by the FDPC shall be allocated as follows: 50% toward capital, 50% toward
So
operation.
instead of having that as 19,
No, this would be, right, it would be, I think it'd fit
Addition.
better, it fit better as number 12, then move everything else down.
okay.
Because 11 talks about fundraising activities needing approval of council, then after that, the rest of it is just sort of protocol stuff, so this would be, it's a key item, it probably belongs right in the heart of this thing.
Would that be 12, or you including?
I think it'd be a new
11?
12, I think it'd be a new 12.
12.
I think it should be separately treated so it stands out.
Okay.
Funds raised.
And then we do end up with 19 like we had on the rough draft.
Right.
%50 capital improvements fund and 50% in the operating fund.
Right.
I thought we wrote that the other day.
I did, but, looks like, it didn't make the final cut on this version, I'm sorry about that. We got it covered. Thank you.
Everyone else look that over?
Thought maybe at this time, Toby, we might, or Jerry, we might mention, I spoke to John today, and he said, well, we have 42 people registered for tomorrow night's program
Right.
at the Heritage Center.
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't even mention it in my manager's report,
I
yeah,
thought
because.
that was great.
Yeah,
Well, we're gonna get there pretty soon.
yep. Okay. I know you mean that.
We haven't gotten to K yet.
Okay.
If anyone has any changes to this resolution, let us know.
Shall I'll make these changes and put it on the agenda for next week to keep things moving?
I don't see any reason to keep it out any longer.
Right.
If everybody agrees,
Okay. I'll take care of that.
next is a Community Day Committee. There's gonna be a meeting tomorrow. And we hope it's a wrap-up meeting. Our booths are rapidly disappearing,
We have over 90 booths committed, which is about what we had last year.
and our food trucks and food suppliers are right there.
How are we with food? Do we still need more?
I don't know about the last couple days. We could have, as of last week, we could have used one more person that's gonna serve on an entree, a sandwich or something like
So
that.
if anyone knows of anyone who might be
Yeah.
interested.
And our ad book is filling up,
It is, all those things are happening now.
so it looks like a good session. We'll find out more tomorrow when we go over everything.
When does the book go to press, just roughly, do you have a fixed date for that?
Tomorrow's the cutoff for ads, and we always announce a cutoff, and we have a day or two grace period, so the 24th.
It's a false deadline.
Oh, a little bit of grace.
It's like fake news, fake
No, it's not fake.
deadline.
I think that's a little different.
No, that's the best way to do it, you gotta be a little fly.
Arthur's hands.
But the point is, the cutoff's the 22nd, but when it goes to the printer, if John can pick up the phone and say, I got another ad, can I stick it in?
John can
And if
do
the
it.
printer says, nope, it's done, it's done.
Yes, and when it's done, it's done.
That's
And
right.
Jerry, you might wanna mention the shirts so everybody will know.
The royal
Because some
blue
of the
shirt,
people work and they're not at Community Day meeting.
make sure it's clean.
Those, what is it? The shirts we had last year, right? Those
Or wait, yeah, we used them 2 years in a row.
Right.
It
that-
was royal
that
blue
shirt we had
shirts, or last year's
Yeah,
edition.
the periwinkle blue, whatever, that's
What?
what.
The royal blue shirt was
That's a
last
shirt.
year's.
Oh, yeah, we're using the royal
Oh,
blue.
royal blue, they're calling it, okay,
That's the
whatever.
same shirt we used last
Right.
year.
Well, just so
Or a
everybody
blue
knows,
shirt.
because some people can't come to
Have you
Community
washed
Day
it?
meeting, so,
Well, we all should have one, I think.
right.
Plenty of time to dry.
Can we all find it?
Well, I don't know, you tell us.
Can you find yours?
I was
Yeah, we
looking,
can fi-
I
I
was
can
looking
find
for it
mine.
the other day, I've got a bunch of them, but I got them all in one place, I don't know if I have, but that's all right.
But, all right.
All right,
Yeah.
well, we're gonna wear the blue shirt. Any other questions for Community Day? Environmental Advisory Committee. Jim?
Thank everyone that came to our meeting on Wednesday. I appreciate you all showing up and the interest that you showed. We went over, a big part of the meeting was a presentation that we had about the Sustainability Pennsylvania Community Certification and the advantages of it and what's actually involved in it. And 131 criteria, and it's kind of a report card of how you're doing sustainability, sustainability wise. It does require website certification. 45 towns and boroughs have gotten this certification in Allegheny County. Some benefits: saves money, avoids costs, gets recognition to the town. Some grants, apparently the DCD is going to start requiring the certification for grants. It just gives you, also helps you identify areas that you can work on, and helps sometimes getting assistance. Most of the workload will fall on our town manager, but the company will help and support us. Toby roughly said, and make sure I get this right, I don't want to misquote you, but he was saying that roughly we have, just looking at it, doing nothing, we probably have 75 to 80% of the check marks for a gold certification, but there are some other things that we would work on. Is that correct?
It is, and again, when validating those 75 to 80, that it appears right off the bat that we have in place, they may need some tuning up, a little improvement perhaps in wording. and so forth, and in admission, if any of those, well, anything, when we go through the checklist, and I think council will, and staff will know what to do with it, basically. But I think we are already very close to the gold level without too much work.
Is this something that we need council to say, yes, we want to do this, or is this something that we just give a nod to? What do we need to move forward?
Well, as I pointed out a couple times, I think my suggestion would be council go through the 131 items, read through it. There are some things that council should I should not assume that council would want me to act on all 131 items. Some items may, and I believe do, take council's direction. I think you should look through the list, and there should be some time set, Mr. Chairman, I think we should have some time set aside for council to go over the list, and I'll go over the list and have a couple of key staff members go over it as well, like Bruce Betty, for example, and the chief of police to some extent, and give you feedback on some of the policies and be ready to discuss with you policies that you may or may not want us to pursue. I'm not saying, I have nothing in particular in mind, but it just seemed to me that there are some things that you're gonna have to set some policy guidance before we do work on it, rather than us start working and go, what are you doing that for? So I think there has to be a discussion. And after that, then I think you may wanna have that discussion take place sometime here in the fall, so that I would like to have help from an intern if we embark on this. Interns have done great work on this in other communities. That would enhance staff, would help a young person to delve into local government. There's a stable of interns available from different sources out there. And I'd like to be able to have the money in the budget to select an intern, and then have that person work with John Bajarski and gathering information and running that. But I have a little system, just like pretty much the way we've done the EAC, and then where John acts as a coordinator to see which department needs to address which item the council has sanctioned us to go forward with.
How many of the COG communities did that so far?
Millvale, Etna, are two that I know of. Ross achieved platinum. They went platinum, as they said.
Cranberry.
Cranberry's not in a COG anymore, but they're platinum. I know of those three offhand. I don't know of anybody else.
I was trying to see if I could pull up a list real quick.
Yeah, I didn't bring that one in. I could grab it. I do have a list in my office. If you'd like me to get it, I know where it is. Can you get
Okay,
it?
well, I think that's a good idea that you find yourself an intern.
But before I do, I think
Isn't that what you said, Ross? did?
council should, I think, bless the sustainability. I think it could be consensus at this meeting next month, or it could be a vote by council saying that there's certain policies that we would not want you to pursue at this time. I just would want some, relatively specific guidance, some guidance.
Right.
And then I'd ask you that, well, if we're heading in that direction, Regis and I will plan on costing out an intern.
Okay.
I'm guessing that's probably gonna be in the $3,000 range, probably the amount of hours they would have to put in. Probably, we'll find out what some of the programs cost. That was just kind of an offhand guess on my part.
Okay,
I can't find it.
all right, let's move on to do you have anything else, Kim?
Just that we went to the Garden in the Park. We had a booth yesterday at the Garden in the Park, and it looked really professional with our nice new banner. And there were some people that showed some interest in signing up for any activities that we could do. They were very interested. There was a lot of interest in our green space maps. We had a big laminated green space map, and then we had some little ones that we could hand out. And there were some members of the Ingomar Garden Club that also came up and had some interest and concerns about their property and maybe a few things that it needed, and as being one of the green spaces. And something that maybe we could,
The property?
um, property they maintain for, it's on Highland,
Council Park.
yes,
Council Memorial.
that's the one,
Council
Council
Memorial
Memorial,
Park.
that's it, yes, that's it, one up by Highland, yes. Yes, and they were just talking about an area that there was a lot of wetness in the town tractors, or the people who we pay to cut the grass, their tractors were having trouble getting stuck in some of that.
The, Andy Banfield, our stormwater engineer, and Mark have met with the garden club reps to put a new, do some recontouring at some point where there can
Well,
be
it's always gonna be a
some
wetland.
bioswales put in.
Well, I'm just saying that
That's-
there was good dialogue and a good interaction, that really, they were really happy to see that the town was looking at this and seeing, you know, maybe what needed to be done. So that was my point, not that we need to do anything.
Yeah, we had a project at one time, there's two council brothers that were killed. Park was donated by Mr. Bell, by lawyer Bell. And there's a lot of provisions in that. But we had talked one time about putting a plaque on the memorial for the other brother who was also killed.
What was her last name, Colin?
Council,
Council.
2 L's.
That's why they call it Council Park, yeah.
one brother was killed. Both of them were killed in were pilots in World War II. The one was killed in war in one place, and the other brother was a test pilot, and he was killed after the war. They never know what happened to him,
Oh, shit.
but there's a writing, you can Google it, you can find the whole story.
The last page.
That's the end of my report.
There's one other item, I think that emanated from the environmental committee was there were 3 projects that the committee has been working on that needed ratification. They voted last at the meeting, and there were 3 projects that
I have to write this down. Go
off the top of my head, it's the Wall Park project, the green space inventory advancement, and Brian? And the recycling efforts. All 3 of those were ratified by vote of the board so that they could be presented
Oh,
here.
we were
And
making it
council could
official.
acknowledge
That's right, I
the
remember.
existence of those projects, and I think, it sounds like Brian North is wanting to talk. Pardon?
Sustainability certification.
Well, that's not a
That's-
project yet, that's just gonna be a discussion by town council, that's what I was.
The proposal basically presented that it would be studied and looked at and presented to council for their decision.
Okay. I didn't recall that vote, but I'm just working from the top of my head, guess I wasn't gonna report on
Yeah,
that.
and I didn't write that down, so.
Okay? You finished, Kim?
Yes, I am, thank you.
President of Council, I have no report. Town Manager's report,
There's some nice news about the Heritage Center, it's doing nicely with attendance and almost $600 in donations, just free will offerings and some sales and some copying fees, but it's just a little item worthy of note, and it's already been commented on about tomorrow night's event is basically a sellout, so to speak. It's the place will be full, about 42 people in chairs, so there'll be a little bit of room cleared out by the area where this portable exhibit's able to be moved. And importantly is the MS4 program report. This Friday ends our comment period. We have received several comments, written comments we will address. And also Councilmember Zachary picking up on some, Bruce Betty and I were talking on a suggestion and some discussion about this is to incorporate some language. I think it would be very helpful and for the program to incorporate language about, I told the engineers that we should have a little bit more language about education. And they said, well, that's a general MS4 comment. I said, okay. And now we have an educational tool being suggested that is for us to initiate a program to excite residents to plant trees on their property. For every tree that's planted, we get a pound of credit of silt removed from our streams. And this is a beautification project, this is a educational project, and community outreach. This has a lot of good, it creates just a better environment here. It's a win-win-win, it's like about a 4 or 5 win suggestion. I do believe we should incorporate that into our permit application.
So
Well,
basically,
I'd also mention that the Northern Area Environmental Council sells trees every spring.
Yeah, well, and we already put in our PRP that we want to partner further with the environmental
Been doing
council.
that for almost ever.
but
Yes,
now we get credit.
we will get credit by doing this pound for pound credit, tree for tree. Residents will have we want to set up the details a little later, we don't have to do that right now, but just simply, residents will be notified through all of our media. We'll have an email site with an email. I have planted blank number of trees, so we'll just transfer that email into our file, and we'll be able to take credit for that. It's a bonus.
It'll be a nice way to get people involved, nice way for us to get the MS4 program ideas out there. And we're planting trees anyway, so why not get
Good
credit
idea.
for them?
I like it.
That's a fantastic thing to do.
I like that.
And
It really is.
and in fact, we would quote, get credit, not that we're doing it, I like to refer, we're not doing this to punch a ticket, because this makes sense to do this. This is a nice goal, a great goal to have, in reducing sediment in our streams. So, and we have, our goal is double what our minimum requirement would be for the first 5 years.
What was it correlate?
And now it'll be
one
even
tree per-
further.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
The correlates what, a pound,
1 pound of sediment.
1 pound of sediment per tree?
every tree planted, and we will get credit for every tree that a developer plants in their landscaping plan.
It doesn't matter where you're planting.
Who planted those trees along the, right at the edge of
And on
North
your own
Park,
property.
or in North Park, right down
Every tree
to the
plant.
right of Ingomar Road coming toward the hall? There, you can see them, they're in little tubes to keep the deer from destroying them.
Kevin Doherty did, we required him to
Well, that
have
was
some
his-
off-site plantings
Okay.
to get some of his approvals, and he's responsible for those, Adventure.
Really? Kevin did that?
Well, he was required to have off-site plantings, and that's what was
Do you know what
approved.
kind of trees those are by chance? Or,
I do not.
Small.
well, they're small now, but I guess I did.
Could you, Mr. Clerk, could you, well, that's certainly a commendable project. Could you arrange, or when it comes to fruition, arrange for some instructions for the citizens who obtain those trees to plant them in such a manner that they don't become traffic hazards in a clear sight triangle, don't plant them on the public right-of-ways and that sort of thing,
I think
so
we'll
they
have-
don't become safety hazards?
I would think we would have an.
We already have enough of that
an
problem.
instruction kit to go along with it and post it on all of our
Yeah,
media.
good idea.
Yes, sir.
And
Thank you.
even the places to plant a tree that would be helpful with stormwater drainage. So I think an instruction kit is a great idea,
Yes, sir.
for us to do.
All you have to do is wait about 35 years. I planted a tree, two pin hooks that were small enough that I could roll them off the truck and dug the hole and planted them myself. Now they're over there in Brook Park Manor too. They're like that. They must be. They're just gigantic.
Well, it's a fast grower too.
Yeah, about 40 years. About 40 years. by the time
So
I
if
planted
anyone
it.
wants to put in some trees, wait till the spring.
Come to
Don't
us.
plant them this fall. They have to be after March.
Yeah, March
Yeah.
1st, we don't get credit for them.
Right, March
Wow.
1st. So it's gonna be spring plantings.
So let us get
Everybody wait.
let us get the program together, get the PR together, and
Yeah,
then
I like
Don't
that.
plant
Boom.
yet.
Arbor Days.
we'll come
is the
out in
day to plant.
spring, come out rolling in
Yeah,
spring.
when is Arbor Day?
Hmm?
When is Arbor Day?
April, maybe
We used to do that when we were
15,
teaching.
18.
Remember? We used to do that when we were teaching, take the kids
Yeah,
outside
Frank
and
Rupp
plant the
used to
trees.
give
Frank Rupp used to bring them out to the
Frank
school.
Rupp used to give every kid in the school a seedling, a pine seedling. And the kids took them home and planted them, and I know that, well,
Toby, you got
some
anything
of
else
it
to
at my
add?
dad's place
You know,
were pretty old.
It is worthy, I think, of note that the Savvy Citizen program that we started just 1 month ago has 665 subscribers, and 422 of those are McCandless residents, so we have friends that want to follow what we do here, and 422 of our residents. Pretty cool.
But fully a third of them are from out of town?
Yeah.
How about that?
Isn't that kind of interesting, isn't it?
Well, they may be from right over the border.
Ross, you know, it could be anywhere
Right, which is
else.
fine.
Still out of
Still
town.
they're in-
Yeah,
Well-
that's right, no, it is.
Yeah, but I
it
mean,
is.
it's local, I'm on
The glass is half
Marshall
full.
and,
The glass is half full.
We're
I'm
on-
not complaining about it,
We're on- That's because McCandless is on the cutting edge.
There you go.
They're trying to follow us, trying to
There
keep
you
up.
go.
yeah, that must be it.
That's what they said about the stormwater. And the sidewalks, and they all follow suit.
See?
Jerry, prepare yourself.
I was
Chris
just thinking
Chris
you
says he has
missed
a 2-hour
sidewalks in there.
report.
Huh?
Yeah, the briefcase full.
Want to continue with your report, sir, is that?
I'm
is
done
that it?
unless-
Did you bring your sleeping bag?
Oh, Chris,
Everybody else anyway.
you got a 2-hour report, Chris?
No, no report from the town attorney today.
Oh,
Okay.
well now,
He had
Sure.
one, but he can't remember it.
he was afraid to say
Too
it.
tired.
It's delirious.
Tired.
Dog ate it. Nick ate it while you were waiting.
Then I guess our meeting is adjourned?
Mindy,
Someone asked me today, I couldn't give an answer.